Well, I am Team Ron DeSantis here on this. Did you see what the Florida governor threw up on social media last night? He was talking about something that we brought up yesterday morning right here on this show. And it was the possibility of a venue change when it comes to Maduro, who right now, of course, is in New York City. He appeared in court yesterday, the former president or dictator of Venezuela. And Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, putting up that he believes the odds of a jury letting Maduro walk will be very different if and when Maduro faces state charges in Miami. How quickly can we get that done? Because all I'm seeing, I saw a Washington Post story yesterday. By the way, happy Tuesday. Thanks for starting off your morning with us on KCMO. I saw a Washington Post story yesterday that said 42% of Americans oppose the actions of Donald Trump in Venezuela. Well, that's because 42% of Americans could find out tomorrow that Donald Trump cured cancer, and they'd be like, bring back cancer, bring back cancer, bring back cancer. That's what they would do. That's the world we live in. So it doesn't shock me that the Washington Post has a poll out there that shows 42% of Americans disapprove of the military capture of Maduro, because it doesn't matter what Trump does. And it's right around that number. It's somewhere between 40 and probably 43, 44% of Americans who just hate everything the guy does. They're mad at the fact that he wakes up and actually has air to breathe. I mean that figuratively and literally. So that doesn't bother me, but what does bother me is that, first off, I heard this morning on the Fox News Rundown here at 5 o'clock on KCMO that they were saying in New York, Maduro may not actually have a trial until early 2028, potentially late 2027 if things go well. I know the legal system is slow, but man, you're telling me you can't expedite something like this in New York? How quickly can we get this guy down to Florida? Now, yesterday here on the show, we talked to Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. He's been all over the Fox News channel the last couple of days talking about this Maduro case. And I asked him that very question. Is it possible there could be a venue change in the Maduro case to get him out of New York where, let's be honest, you're going to cobble together a jury, you're going to have prosecutors, you're going to have judges who all just are so triggered by their TDS that, yeah, they might go soft on Maduro. I mean, don't put it past them. Please don't do it. Here's what Greg Jarrett said yesterday right here on KCMO.
Well, I assure you there are discussions going on in the Department of Justice as to whether or not this case should be transferred outside of New York because of its hostile panel of judges that are there. I think the judge, I haven't looked into it, but I saw a few minutes ago that an anti-Trump judge has been assigned the case. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, look, Noriega was tried down in Florida, and that certainly is a better, more advantageous venue. And the DOJ could attempt to transfer it down to Florida, which has vast experience in trying drug trafficking cases. So I think that's probably on the table. It's something that the DOJ is thinking about. When the investigation first began in Maduro, it emanated in the Southern District of New York Federal Court, and it's been there ever since. And this investigation, the gathering of evidence, all the money laundering, the shell companies where Maduro and his cronies have been hiding the money, that started in New York, and it's been going on for a decade, that investigation. And, they've had a lot of experts who've been following the money trail for years. And simply because it started in the Southern District doesn't mean that the venue can't be changed.
There you go. That was Greg Jarrett yesterday right here on KCMO Talk Radio. So Greg Jarrett coming out and saying, hey, it's entirely possible that this venue does get changed. And after what I heard this morning, last hour here on the Fox News Rundown, where they had their legal guys say, yeah, it could be 2 years from now. Whatever you can do to expedite this process, please just get it done for all of our sakes. Because you still have people like Emmanuel Cleaver. I mean, he just won't give it up. Cleaver's been on a little tweet storm here the last couple of days, the Kansas City congressman begging on the Maduro arrest. He's got this post from yesterday afternoon saying to end 2025, Congress voted on a war powers resolution to prevent the president from using military action against Venezuela, risking another regime change quagmire. Unfortunately, 99% of Republicans voted to kill the effort. Congress cannot allow him to drag us into more unnecessary conflicts. That is fear-mongering from Emmanuel Cleaver.
You mustard moo.
That's all it is. To be very clear, that is fear-mongering from Emmanuel Cleaver. He shared a post from ABC News saying President Trump has not ruled out sending troops into Venezuela and has implied Colombia, Cuba, and Greenland could also face U.S. action soon. And you know why he's doing that? Because he wants to keep everybody on their toes. Trump's been doing this for 10 years. You guys act like this has all just come up out of thin air, out of nowhere the last few days. Trump he says I might do this. You never know. I might do that. Well, you better watch out. That's what he does. And oftentimes it's strategic. Sometimes he's just spouting off and, saying whatever's on his mind. But his actions are rarely as uncalculated as his words. We know that Trump's tongue is what gets him in trouble. Not really his actions. His actions are damn good, by and large. Not that I agree with every single thing, but his actions far superior to his words. And now you get ABC News out there saying, he hasn't ruled out sending troops. And Cleaver's like, oh, boy, we got to stop this, John. Emmanuel Cleaver's all bent out of shape.
The political vernacular never applies to Trump. They all panic. If he were a Democrat, they'd say he floated a balloon. He floated that idea out there. Floated it.
He did. That's right. That's
Trump
how they would frame
float
it.
Anything, right?
No. Not in their eyes, at least. They just want to pop that balloon. That's all they want to do. You're right about that. 913-408-7957. It's how you join us on KCMO. Now, did you see this story? A mystery trader made $400,000 betting on Maduro's downfall. Less than 5 hours before the nighttime explosions rocked the Venezuelan capital of Caracas, an unknown trader doubled down on bets that Nicolas Maduro would soon be out as the country's leader. The wagers on Polymarket, a popular crypto-based betting platform, netted the trader more than $400,000, a 12-fold return on the investment, and fueled suspicions that someone used inside knowledge of the closely held U.S. operation to make a quick profit. Insider trading is illegal in the stock market, and regulators routinely monitor suspicious trades ahead of big corporate news so they can prosecute insiders who attempt to enrich themselves using non-public information. This is from the Wall Street Journal. There are fewer safeguards in place to prevent people from exploiting their insider knowledge on Polymarket. Polymarket is a website that allows users to bet on a variety of future events, ranging from President Trump's political appointments to this year's World Cup, to which characters would die in the recent season of Stranger Things. You can bet on all that stuff at Polymarket. I hope you're not, Mark, let's just stick to FanDuel around here, okay?
Yeah, I'm sticking to FanDuel for sure.
Let's stick to FanDuel. We've got good friends on the up and up at FanDuel. They're great partners here with this radio station at KCMO Talk Radio. Let's not dabble in Polymarket.
Yeah, they don't have Maduro bets on FanDuel.
No. And you know what? They shouldn't have Maduro bets on FanDuel, because the only way that you would have made any money on something like this is if you were doing what? You were basically insider trading. That's what this is. The anonymous user created an account last month and placed an initial bet on December 27th, buying $96 worth of contracts that would pay off if the U.S. invaded Venezuela by January 31st. The person ramped up bets over the next week, sticking to a handful of similar contracts as tensions mounted between Washington and Caracas. Wow. That is sketchy, sketchy, sketchy stuff right there, John.
I had this weird call this morning on the hotline. It said Doc Marshall likes Endicott steel. TV anchor.
Oh,
we've got too many inside sources here, I guess.
Oh, that's outstanding. That's outstanding. You make a Wall Street reference, John, you're done for the day. You pack your bags and go home.
Blue Horseshoe loves Endicott steel.
Well done. So I'm going to stick to FanDuel. I don't like this. This is sketchy stuff. And I will say, if the Trump administration has people on the inside who are insider trading on Polymarket, they better sniff that stuff out, man. I mean, I don't care if it's Nancy Pelosi or it's someone on the other side. If you are insider trading based on information you have and connections you have to power, I mean, that is as dirty as it gets, and it's everything that people hate about politicians. So we'll see if this story goes anywhere, but you know what? $400,000 on knowing Maduro's about to get kidnapped. Arrested. I've been watching too much mainstream news here the last 24 hours. Well, that's a little fishy. I'll just leave it at that. 913-408-7957. Good morning. Great to have you here on a Tuesday on KCMO. Well, somebody had a brutal start to their career last night, and the entire world was watching. We'll tell you what happened next.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
You ever have that brutal first day at the office? Brand new job, you just totally bomb out? Well, that's what happened last night in a viral moment for new CBS Evening News anchor Tony DeCopel. So Tony, taking over CBS News, is making some noise because they've taken a different approach. And we played some of the audio last week where Tony came out as he teased the start of his show last night as the new CBS Evening News anchor. And he said, hey, I'm going to be for you. I'm not going to be standing here with my bias. I'm not going to cater to the elites. I'm not going to cater to corporate interests. We'll see how it plays out, but it sounded good. Well, last night in his debut, Tony had a moment that I think no matter how you feel about CBS, I felt bad for the guy. Maybe it's just because I do this for a living, but he had a teleprompter failure and issue, and here's what it sounded like.
All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill. Well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly.
Oh.
First day, big problems here. Are we going to Kelly here, or are we going to go to Jonah Kaplan? We're doing Mark Kelly, possibly demoted from his retired rank of captain in the Navy.
Now, listen, this happens. I used to watch the evening news on ABC when I was living with my grandmother throughout college and shortly thereafter. So we'd watch ABC, Diane Sawyer, and then it was David Muir, who's permanently got a stick up his backside. But we'd watch them, and I would say half a dozen times a year, this just happens. It's not a big deal. We know what happened. The prompter stopped working, or they got confused, or the person running the prompter had a brain fart. So if you're Tony, though, and this is your big first night, right? The world is watching. Everyone's looking at you. And it's like, well, and then when he says, the only thing I didn't like there is when he said, first day, big problems. It's like, yeah, let's not admit you're having big problems, okay? I mean, if I did that every day, I'd be sitting here saying, boy, John, Mark, we got some big problems here, boys. I mean, things happen when you're doing a live broadcast. It just is what it is. You got to roll with it, man. So that was a tough spot. That clip I saw going viral last night on social media. And then, of course, there were people on the internet who were just eating that up from Tony. Here was the headline from the Daily Beast, a far left-wing online publication. MAGA-coded CBS anchor falls apart in evening news debut. Falls apart in evening. It was 30 seconds. I'm not here to defend the guy. I'm just saying, as someone who does this for a living, that's also why TV people typically don't translate to radio, because they're so used to having that prompter as their crutch. There is no prompter. I'm looking at this notepad here. I'm looking at John and Mark. I've got some scribble that only I can read on my notepad, so I know what I want to talk about. We've got a Google Doc that we share that has all the information for this morning's show in it, guests and topics and things like that. And then we just let it rip. And that's how it goes. That's why it's so much easier when you see people go radio to TV, and you rarely see people go TV to radio. A lot more work, no safety net, no teleprompter, and you got to just let it fly. And that's not typically their expertise. So I'm pulling for Tony. He did have a good moment, though, in the show last night as I watched some of his broadcasts. He was talking about Venezuela, and he was talking about, the value of Venezuela to some of the worst actors on the planet. And here's what he had to say last night in the CBS Evening News.
As you just heard from Jill, we should not expect this to affect gas prices all that much, which does raise the question of how exactly it helps the United States, if it helps the United States at all. What is it actually about? Well, if you zoom out a bit, you can maybe see the outlines of an answer. For decades, Russia, China, and Iran have been building a presence in Venezuela, a base of power and influence in the hemisphere. With Maduro now out, that base of power and influence could be out too.
Russia, China, Iran building influence in Venezuela. We should own this hemisphere. Nobody like Russia, China, and Iran should be doing what they want in Venezuela, basically right to our south, without our approval. And this all ties back to Trump, who, I think back to late last year. The Rob Reiner stuff was so cringy, was so frustrating to me, and I know many of you. And boy, do I wish he would not constantly shoot himself in the foot. I really do. But at some point, you have to look at the actual results and concede that the guy has been incredibly effective as the president of the United States. And arguably exactly the guy that we need right now, even if he isn't the model of presidential decorum. And even if you hate him, if you're being honest, he has been the most influential president since at least Ronald Reagan. And this arrest of Maduro and understanding the value in it beyond just this is a bad guy who's been trafficking drugs to the United States for a long time. Beyond that, this also is a hit to Russia, China, and Iran in a way that protects our national interests in the West. And that's critically important right now. When you look at where the world is, when you look at what the goals are of Russia and China and Iran, and those are arguably, obviously, the three worst actors on the planet. Maybe you want to throw in North Korea and a couple others, but they're right up there at the top when it comes to influence and power on the global stage. And you can't have those guys coming into Venezuela, more or less in our backyard, and destabilizing that country, which results in people flooding our country. And then, you got to deal with this on the back end. Where what are their intended goals by having more influence in Venezuela? All this stuff ties together. And to Trump's credit, he's understanding that. He's willing to call the shots while also saying, at least as of right now, and I hope it stays this way, we are not interested in nation building. We are not doing some large-scale war. And that's also why they put Maduro's number 2 in command. The New York Times reported on this last night that the belief by Rubio and, as a result, Trump is that it's more stabilizing right now to keep the Maduro people in charge than completely, basically wipe them all out and start from scratch. So they're doing this in a smart, efficient, and effective way. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, somebody wants to give away World Cup tickets for free. They think everyone should have access. We'll tell you who coming up next.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, a full lineup reacting to the huge developments in Venezuela and Iran, also major political news as well. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
You guys want to try to get to a World Cup game together? What do you say? Come on. I mean, I would go, I guess, if we get the tickets, if we can figure out a way to make it work. I know Mark will go. He's always down for an event. John will have to figure out something to wear, but
Yesterday I was wearing my Netherlands hat. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, were you?
So that was my new hat that I got over Christmas break.
Did I not notice?
I don't know. It just had a lion on it, so it's
Okay.
a nice Netherlands soccer hat. They're going to be here in KC.
Very cool. Yeah, I can't keep track of all your hats. Well, right now, if you go to StubHub, looking at Netherlands versus Tunisia, Thursday, June 25th. Your get-in price right now is $326, but most of the lower bowl is pushing $1,000 for tickets.
That's the one I want to go to.
That's Tunisia?
Netherlands.
Netherlands, yeah. Okay. Well, it's not going to be cheap there, Mark. We'll see if we can make it work for you, big guy, but it's not going to be cheap. Well, the new mayor of New York City, he's really upset about these World Cup ticket prices. You know, not for us here in Kansas City, but of course in New York City. They're not even technically playing games in New York City. They're playing games in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium. That's home of the Jets and the Giants. It's going to be basically what we'll have here with the Chiefs, where the Chiefs will play in Kansas, not technically Kansas City. The Jets and Giants play in New Jersey. But the new mayor of New York City, who's like 3 days onto the job, wants to make it clear that he'll do everything in his power to try to figure out how to get World Cup tickets to just give away on the street corner.
What we are seeing, you know, I had a New Yorker the other day come up to me and ask me if there was any way I could help him get World Cup tickets, because he was saying that the cost that he saw for a game was $600, right? This is increasingly out of reach. We have made what used to be a working class game into a luxury experience. And there are too many for whom it doesn't matter where the World Cup is being played in the world, they know where they're going to watch it. It's TV. And we want to ensure that there are more experiences available.
You know, that's the problem with these guys, though. They promised the moon, and now you have people saying, hey, bro, can you get me some World Cup tickets?
Mr. Mamdani opened Pandora's box. Can you get me World Cup tickets? That's classic.
I mean, you know, suddenly he's like, I can't give you everything for free.
Yeah, whoa, hey.
I'll try to give you free groceries, and I'll try to have rent control and maybe get you some free housing, and, you know, we'll do free this, free that. But even he's basically saying, well, you know, free World Cup tickets, that's a stretch for me. I'm not sure I can make that happen. But this is what you get with these guys. You promise everybody everything through the government, and now you got folks bumping into you on the street corner saying, hey, bro, can I get some World Cup tickets there? What do you say?
It's like the high school hustler Mike Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The kid comes up and asks for Blue Oyster Cult tickets. No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult tickets. I ate 20 pair last time. Where were you?
And we'll see if Mom Donnie holds to his druthers there, because, you know, he'll be invited probably.
Well, that's the thing,
yeah,
man.
that's right.
You're
Touché.
absolutely right. I mean, he'll be able to get himself there if he wants to. There's no doubt about it. And the finals, I believe, are there in MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. So, yeah, that's going to be a very pricey ticket. It's going to be thousands of dollars. Is he going to be hobnobbing in some suite?
Well, is he going to give them to the guy in the corner?
Or is he going to give them to the guy in the corner?
How about that?
Right? I mean, what is he going to do? And that's what puts these Mamdani, Bernie Sanders folks in tough spots. They like the good life. They love the good life. Bernie's got 3 homes. Mamdani's living in Gracie Mansion there in New York City. On a much-lesser extent, you have Quentin Lucas here in Kansas City. You know, he's got the private escort service from KCPD. I saw the mayor bragging over the holidays how he's going to be out and about driving his 2013 Toyota Corolla. It's like, you're trying too hard to be one of the guys. Please, the reason you've got a 2013 Corolla or whatever it was, Altima or something like that, the reason you got that is because you never have to drive your own car because you're getting chauffeured around by KCPD. Okay, I wouldn't buy a new car either if I had someone driving me around town. So just pump the brakes on this like everyman stuff. Just for a second. Don't try too hard, okay?
Yeah, you saw that at Carvana there off I-35.
That's right.
Picked out a little something.
Yeah, driving downtown. Is that technically Missouri or is that technically Kansas? Because he can't be buying cars in Kansas. That wouldn't be a good look for him. He's got to buy that car in Missouri. It's got to be right there on state line, that Carvana, right? Either way, speaking of the World Cup here in Kansas City, I saw Fox 4 just did a story on this. The city council is trying to figure out what to do about short-term rentals, right? They want to make it easier for people who want to basically Airbnb their homes to make a little money during the World Cup. Now, you know why they're doing this. They're doing this because you know and I know one of the storylines coming out of this World Cup is going to be not everybody benefited in ways that we were promised. Now, that is true. But when you have the politicians go out there and say, hey, don't worry, this is going to be great for the city, everyone's going to make a ton of money, then you get like what you got during the NFL draft. The lady who has the sundress store at Crown Plaza is suddenly very upset that nobody bought sundresses at the NFL draft. Yeah, because that's not the clientele. This is going to happen in the World Cup too. There will be parts of town that see absolutely no benefit from having the World Cup here. So the city's trying to get ahead of this and saying, hey, we're going to be the good guys. They announced about 2-3 weeks ago that the applications for major event short-term rental permits during the World Cup are just $50. That's 75% less than the standard $200 annual fee. The rental period is going to be May 3rd to July 31st, 90-day maximum. And if you have any questions, you can call 816-513-1120. So they're lowering the short-term rental permit fee to allow more people to basically apply to potentially Airbnb their homes. How many people are going to apply for this and are going to be approved for this and then will be basically shut out when it comes to renting out their house? I think there's a lot of people that just assume, I'm going to rent out my house and make a fortune. I don't think so. I think that certain people will, in certain parts of town, will have success. But, the person in Midtown who wants to rent out their apartment for a couple of weeks, who just assumes, the World Cup's here, someone's going to take my place. I'm not so sure about that. I think it's going to be very specific based on where you are in and around Kansas City. I think certain people are going to do great. I think others are going to totally strike out, and they don't realize it's coming. But in the meantime, the city will take your $50 and pocket that gladly. That's what happens when you're running a $100 million shortfall. So I didn't know if you guys had any plans to Airbnb the house. I mean, it's kind of tough for Mark and I to do that with kids. But, John, I didn't know if you had some grand plans for the summer yet. Were you going to Airbnb the house and then, jet set around the world or something like that?
No, I'm just working on stadium parking.
Okay, all right.
Parking in the front yard, that kind of thing.
You're going to do that whole deal. All right.
On the lawn part.
Mark, you've always got some trick up your sleeve. Is there any way you're going to try to make a buck during this World Cup?
I told my brother-in-law he could stay with us for free. That's probably not a good idea. I should probably at least charge him,
I was going to say, make him buy you groceries or something.
No, just put a lock on the refrigerator and stuff. Yeah. A little combo deal.
That's what you do. That's it right there. All right, so this is your brother-in-law?
Yeah, he's a big soccer fan.
I mean, does he have tickets yet, or is he just assuming he's going to come down here and you're going to buy him tickets too after he freeloads off of your groceries?
Yeah, not yet. He doesn't have the tickets yet. We just talked about it over Christmas, and he'd like to see the Netherlands as well, so we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, so he wants to come down and watch some World Cup action with you. So is this your way of indirectly asking me to try to get you World Cup tickets? Is that what you're doing right now?
I figured if I got tickets, it would probably not be tickets. It would just be like, hey, I'm in the media. I don't think my brother-in-law can do that, though, so I'd just be going solo.
Oh, he can help you.
Yeah.
He can. You just need to go down there and stand around in a crowd and have your brother-in-law go, were you on Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Didn't I see? Dude, YouTube.
I'll get him with Jason. Who? What?
Yeah, wait, when does that come out?
They still haven't announced. They were supposed to wrap up filming on the 30th.
The 30th
of December.
In
England, yeah.
In England. Okay.
So
Well,
for unknown Kansas City series, of course, yes.
I hope the series comes out before the World Cup. That way everyone knows who you are and you get seen on this unnamed show.
Yes. That's
Mark
supposed
will be
to
on
be
the scoreboard.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the goal. I think they want to release it in, conjunction with the World Cup.
Okay. All right. There you go. Well, you know what? By then you'll be an even bigger star in this town than you are, Mark. Instead of just being the parlay expert, you'll be the Ted Lasso star as well. People will be showering you with World Cup tickets around town.
Soccer expert.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark Van Sickle.
Exactly right. Coming up, the top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. The 6 at 6. We'll get to it coming up next on KCMO.
From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Oh, that's right. This is Mark's brother-in-law as he strolls out of the bathroom after crashing in Mark's house for 2 weeks to try to, get some World Cup tickets. 6:49. Good morning. It's great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. It's that time of the morning. Let's do it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
A note on the door of Lawrence City Hall yesterday explained a shocking situation that happened inside. Lawrence police have confirmed that a deadly altercation at City Hall involved a city employee and a suspect who is now deceased. This happened yesterday morning at about 8 a.m. According to Lawrence police, an intruder broke through a secured door and climbed the stairs to the 4th floor of City Hall, which houses the offices of the Lawrence City Manager, City Prosecutor, and Budgeting Director. This was a 28-year-old man from out of state. His next of kin, as of this KCTV5 report, had not been notified. And it's currently unclear if the city employee who shot the intruder was a security guard, but it was confirmed they were authorized to carry a handgun. The door to access the floor was locked. The suspect broke a window, pushed it open before encountering an armed city employee. After a physical altercation, the suspect was shot and killed. So that happening at City Hall in Lawrence yesterday, and I believe they are going to be closed until Thursday, if I saw that right. So they'll be closed here for a couple of days at City Hall out there in Lawrence. Next up in our 6 at 6.
Number 2.
Well, J.D. Vance had an issue at his home. There was a deranged hammer-wielding vandal who was accused of busting several windows at J.D. Vance's home in Cincinnati. And reportedly, the individual is the son of a prominent millionaire family and appears to have been going by Julia in recent weeks. William DeFord, 26, arrested early Monday after allegedly shattering 4 windows at Vance's house. Police say DeFord was attempting to break into the home at about midnight. The Vances, who moved into the vice president's official residence in Washington, D.C. after the inauguration, were not in Ohio at the time. It's unclear, according to reports, whether DeFord is identified as transgender or non-binary, but he recently appeared to be posting under the name Julia DeFord. Cops listed the suspect's name as William and his gender as male. So, his father, William, a successful Harvard graduate, boasts decades as a pediatric urologist in Cincinnati and works as a professor at the University of Cincinnati's College of Medicine. I mean, it's the same old story. It's the same old crop of people, oftentimes well-to-do kids who are mentally not well and are forever adolescents is what you've got going on here, allegedly, in this case. So this happened yesterday. Didn't see it get a lot of mainstream media attention, but this is what we know right now about the alleged J.D. Vance home intruder.
Number 3.
Rolling through the 6 at 6, we have some information on the Lynn County 13-year-old who was killed. Yesterday, the KCK Police Department, which is overseeing the investigation, said it confirmed the cause of the teen's death. According to an autopsy, the cause of Aaron Undula's death has been identified as multiple dog bite injuries. So this is what we know right now. Pleasanton native Damon Leonard remains in custody on a $100,000 cash-only bond in Bates County, Missouri, on charges related to the case. Leonard was charged with abandonment of a corpse in relation to the teen's death. Charges in Lynn County have also been filed for interference of law enforcement, criminal desecration, and having a vicious dog at large. So that is still being investigated, but at least we know the cause of death right now in this 13-year-old teenage boy.
Number 4.
Rolling through it, speaking of teenagers, this tragedy we now have names on. So 2 teens died in a crash late Saturday night in Olathe. The Olathe Police Department said that at about 10:40 on Saturday, officers were called to a crash near Northgate and East Herald Street after receiving a tip about an iPhone crash notification. When they arrived, the car that crashed into a tree was engulfed in flames. and now we know the names. The 16-year-old driver was Hayden C. Doherty of Overland Park, and the passenger was a 17-year-old female, Addison Askew of Olathe. Olathe North released a statement yesterday regarding Askew's death. Reading in part, "It is with a heavy heart that I share with you the passing of our fellow Olathe North student, Addison Askew, following a tragic accident. We are a family at Olathe North, and on Tuesday, January 6th, we will have additional resources available for anyone who needs support. Please reach out if you or your child needs support. Take care of one another, and please keep the Askew family in your thoughts during this challenging time." That is a note from the principal, Jason Herman. This case remains under investigation by the Olathe Police Department.
Number 5.
Next up in our 6 at 6, Platte County has withdrawn from Zona Rosa. So the commissioners voted yesterday to formally sever the county's ties with the Zona Rosa shopping center. County leaders say the move makes clear that Platte County has no role in the future maintenance or financial obligations tied to the more than 20-year-old shopping center in the Northland. Zona Rosa has faced ongoing concerns in recent years, including underperformance and costly maintenance needs for its parking garage. The question of who should pay for those repairs has been at the center of a long-running legal dispute between UMB Bank and bondholders tied to the development. Platte County officials emphasize that the county has not used taxpayer dollars to maintain the garages and does not own them. So we'll try to get Scott Fricker on this morning. He is one of the commissioners up in Platte County to talk about this story and much more. We'll also have on Eric Zond. He's the Platte County prosecutor. There's some beef right now between the Platte County Commission and law enforcement in Platte County because the law enforcement folks say they're being shorted $600,000 in next year's budget. So we will keep an eye on that and talk about that with Scott Fricker this morning. And Eric Zond's going to be here as well.
Number 6.
Last up in the 6 at 6, KU back on the court tonight. And the question, of course, is Darren Peterson playing? They are hosting TCU at Allen Fieldhouse, the Big 12 home opener for the 22nd ranked Jayhawks coming off that loss at UCF on Saturday. Be careful with those Darren Peterson bets on FanDuel tonight, Mark, all right? I wouldn't trust that guy as far as I could throw him.
Yeah, not using him tonight.
Yeah, please don't do that for your own sake. Don't make that mistake. But we'll see if KU can get its first Big 12 win of the season tonight against TCU, who's coming off a win against Baylor.
Trey White props up.
I like that. Check him out on FanDuel. Trey White props. I like that. He's a good player. He's got a nice shot. There's your 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. Coming up, a Missouri politician wants to go all in against the Chiefs. We'll tell you how next. I understand what this Missouri politician's going for here, but I'm here to tell you I don't believe it's going to go anywhere. This was the headline story this morning at 5 a.m. on the Kansas City Star website. Missouri lawmaker wants to penalize the Chiefs for their Kansas move. That was the headline at the Kansas City Star. By the way, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. So there are 3 bills that were filed by Senator Nick Schroer. He's a Defiance, Missouri Republican, and this is all retaliation against the Chiefs as they get set to obviously leave Arrowhead Stadium and go to Kansas in 2031. We don't have all the bills and all the information in terms of what is in this, but there's a lot that has been obviously floated out there about these bills, and the Kansas City Star had some of the reporting as well that I want to make sure that we bring to you here on KCMO Talk Radio. So these things were all about, hey, first off, you've got to demolish the place if you want to leave. And, I don't think that's unreasonable, but here's the thing. That's why these stadium deals never actually work out in favor of the taxpayer. That's why these teams don't want to own the stadiums. They don't want to have to be in charge of basically demolishing a place if they leave. They don't want to own these things. And this is a big issue that's come up on the Kansas side of the state line. Like the team is basically going to pay $7 million to itself to rent the stadium from, I believe it's going to be Wyandotte County. That is what has been reported thus far or suggested thus far based on some of the language that the Commerce Department has released in Kansas. Well, why do you think that is? Because they don't want to own it, right? They want to be able to use it and walk away as leverage whenever they so please. So that's how these deals are all set up. You can be upset about it in Missouri, and it's not the fault of a guy like Nick Schroer that this is happening, but there's enough out there that suggests, listen, this is what the deal was. We had on John Patterson, who's the Speaker of the House of Missouri. He's from Lee's Summit, the day after this news broke, which was 2 weeks ago now. And he made it very clear it's going to cost us, I think he said like $100 million to demolish Arrowhead Stadium. So do you keep it? Do you try to, make something out of it? Do you try to make a little money off of it, however you can? I mean, Quentin Lucas is seemingly convinced that next time Taylor Swift does a tour, she's going to want to play at Arrowhead in 2031 and not at the new stadium in KCK. That's a joke. That's not going to happen. They're not going to get stadium shows to pick Arrowhead over the new fancy stadium out there by the Legends. That's just not going to happen. So I don't know what they can do with it. I mean, high school football championship games, I guess. But once again, is that a smart use of that property? I mean, I don't know. You could put a big old Jackson County jail there, but they're already working on that now, too. So I don't know. Buc-ee's is going to be down the street, so I'm not sure what you do. But there was a deal in place. The deal always favored the team. And to go back on that and now say to the team, you got to basically pay for the teardown, that's going to be caught up in legal issues if it goes anywhere. There was also something about, slapping another $50 on the ticket prices for the Chiefs. I'm not sure what exactly that does to stick it to the Chiefs outside of stick it to the people paying for tickets who already are paying a small fortune in many cases to go to games. Like, I don't know who exactly that benefits. But a lot of this stuff feels like sour grapes. As much as I have been highly critical of the deal that Kansas cut with the teams, I mean, still, one of the lasting images in my mind of what happened at the end of the year is Kansas politicians walking out of a closed-door session, unanimously approving the star bonds for the Chiefs, and then clapping as Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan walk into the room as if it's like, here, please, take our money, and we will applaud you for doing it. It is just, oh, gosh, it was filthy. I've taken a shower every day since then, and I still can't get the stench of that moment off of my body. That's how gross it was to watch. It was classic backroom politics and the taxpayer be damned. And that's why you've seen Laura Kelly out there over the last couple of weeks tweeting a lot or posting on X a lot about, this is all good, no problems here, everything's great, not going to cost you a dime. When you're the one explaining, when you're the one going out there trying to basically justify this stuff, then you know that there's more than meets the eye. And that's because there is. There always has been. And as someone told me 2 nights ago, they said, Pete, well, hold on, we don't even have the full Star Bond district. I'm like, how did you cut the deal without knowing the district? It doesn't make any sense. How do you cut the deal without knowing the district? If you don't know how you're paying for something, then you shouldn't have cut the deal. I mean, this is like Dave Ramsey 101 type stuff. But in politics, when it's all funny math and economic development math, I mean, no one really cares. It's just like, well, we'll figure it out. And that's a joke. It is such a disservice to the people of Kansas. But that being said, do Missouri politicians really have a lot to complain about right now with the Chiefs? I don't think they do. And I don't believe these bills are going to end up going anywhere. I don't think leadership is going to want to go down that road. And frankly, I don't think Mike Kehoe is going to want to sign these bills. I think Mike Kehoe is going to want to take the high road, is going to want to, as the governor, still say good partners with the Chiefs over the next few years. And, I'm not saying I know anything on this, and I'm not saying I want this to be true at all. I'm just saying. I mean, this Kansas deal, man, there are still so many questions around the funding mechanisms of this. If I'm Missouri, I would be sitting there right now and saying, you know what? Maybe there is a 0.1% chance that thing falls apart and they come back running into our arms. I'm just saying it's not impossible. I'm not suggesting it's likely. I'm not suggesting it's ever going to happen. But there are still more questions, it seems like, than answers in Kansas. So if you're in Missouri, you take the high road right now and you see how things end up playing out. That's all. 913-408-7957. It's great to be here just after 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning on KCMO. Make sure that preset is set right now to 95.7 FM. And if you're at home, stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app or on your Alexa or Google Home. Jason is on KCMO out of Olathe. Jason, good morning.
Hey, Pete, good morning. I think the Star Bond district thing, they were kind of like, well, we can get this much, and if we can get more, great, but I think you're poo-pooing on this too much because, I live over by you and we can charge people to park in our yards when they have the spring training, make some bucks there. So you got to remember that.
Please tell me that was tongue-in-cheek. I couldn't tell based on how you were saying it.
Yes, my tongue is in my cheek right
now.
Okay.
Thank God, because if not, I was going to have to ban you from ever calling again. Thank you for that, Jason. Listen, right. Good stuff, good call. I am not in the business of having people park on my front lawn. It's not something I want to do. But someone also floated out to me saying that they thought that St. Joe might be able to retain training camp. I once again, that was just floated out to me by somebody who knows the inner workings of Olathe politics very well, which is where, of course, this new training center is going to be, off of K10 and Ridgeview. You're going to have to do a lot of work to that interchange off K10 if you're going to run training camp there. If you're going to get thousands of people in there in the summer for training camp, you have to massively redo that interchange. So I don't know if that has been confirmed yet as being the site for training camp, if and when that does come. But once again, it gets back to more questions than answers right now. Still more questions than answers. Despite what the politicians want to tell you. Everything's great, everything's done, everything's good. When they're the ones saying that, it's like, I'm not buying it. There's this guy on Twitter, X, who has done a great job, just breaking all this stuff down. His name is J.C. Bradbury. He is an expert when it comes to these stadium deals. He is a must-follow. I've been sharing some of his stuff. And he posted last night, is anyone calling this Kansas Chiefs deal a good one other than the politicians who approved it and the guys with hats turned around backwards in their profile pics? And I'm like, nope, that's about it. As Mark just flipped his hat around backwards.
Let's go. Olathe Chiefs.
Oh, that's great. Mark in Independence. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Mondo, listen, you touch a sore subject with me, and that is the parking in the yards. First of all, it's a code violation. Not supposed to do it. That's part of what contributed to the blight there in that section of the town.
No, of course. I mean, let's be honest, okay? If you live anywhere and you have people parking in your yard, you're not typically a highly desirable part of any community. Just call it like it is.
Well, not only that, when you take money for people to park in your yard, you can't go inside and watch the game. You have a liability to watch those cars because that's a bailment, and you have a duty to make sure that those cars are protected.
Mark, I appreciate you looking out for me, but trust me, it's not going to be a problem, okay? I mean,
I'm talking in general terms of the entrepreneurs in Kansas there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I would just put my kids out there if I ever did that anyway. I'll have Claire and Chloe in charge.
Well, but I called in when you had the guy Patrick the other day when you were on vacation, and I asked him, I said, who's going to pay for the operating cost? The painting, the insurance, the maintenance, the upkeep of the new stadium every day. And he told me, he said, they don't have that worked out yet. So everything you're saying is right. There's a lot of surprises coming up.
Yep, a lot of surprises. And, the local politicians don't have all the answers yet. They have not made any firm commitments when it comes to TIF money potentially in places like Olathe and Wyandotte County. I mean, there are still so many more questions that need to be answered on this deal. Coming up next on KCMO, Hilton at the center of a major controversy. Why would Hilton Hotels be at the center of a major controversy? But I'm here to tell you, people were quick yesterday to try to cancel Hilton Hotels. Do not do that. I'll explain why next.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Sometimes people are too quick to want to just cancel something and Bud Light something because it worked like a couple of years back, but pump the brakes on this Hilton Hotels thing. So if you haven't seen this, Hilton Hotels, according to Homeland Security, refused service to Homeland Security law enforcement in Minneapolis. This came yesterday, early afternoon. Officers with the Department of Homeland Security attempted to book rooms using official government emails and rates, and Hilton Hotels canceled their reservations because of who they were. Now, Hilton Hotels put out a statement yesterday to Fox News that read, Hilton Hotels serves as a welcoming place for all. This specific hotel in Minneapolis is independently owned and operated, and the actions referenced are not reflective of Hilton values. We are investigating this matter with this individual hotel and can confirm that Hilton works with governments, law enforcement, and community leaders around the world to ensure our properties are open and inviting to everyone. We since have seen here in the last hour or so, Bill Ackman reporting that Hilton Hotels is terminating the franchise effective immediately. The employee also apparently has been let go. So Hilton Hotels has the power to do that at the corporate level, even though this operation in Minneapolis was basically, run by a franchisee. But Hilton Corporate could terminate the hotel owner's franchise if they wanted to. It is currently being investigated, and Bill Ackman reporting here in the last 45 minutes that Hilton Hotels is terminating this franchise effective immediately. And Bill Ackman also reported that the CEO of Hilton Hotels is a guy named Chris Nassetta. And Ackman writes here, he is one of the most outstanding CEOs in the world. I know he is highly respected by President Trump and this current administration. Chris became personally involved in this situation from the moment he became aware of it and has taken immediate action. As a Hilton customer and shareholder, I am comfortable that this situation was handled appropriately and in a timely fashion. So once again, the hotel in Minneapolis that was denying Homeland Security workers was a franchisee, not a Hilton corporate location. Hilton helps market the hotel. They coordinate reservations. They make sure the hotel consistently meets the high standards. That's it. That's their role in this. So I'm not sitting here looking to cancel Hilton. I don't view this story as anything more than a rogue location with a rogue employee deciding they were going to stick it to ICE and stick it to Trump and Kristi Noem and all these people. And now they're paying the ultimate price. So just know everything is not like what you think it is based on a headline on social media, John.
Gee, it happened in Minnesota, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Well, of all places, right? It happened in Minnesota. There you go. Oh, man. How's old Happy Hands Tim Walz doing now that he's not running for re-election? Anyone heard from him yesterday? Did you see the clip? I think I've got it. We don't need it right now, Mark. But I'll play it later in the show. Tim Walz held his press conference yesterday where he announced he's not running for re-election with all these fraud allegations flying all over the place in Minnesota. And I guess he said he was going to take questions, and he just walked away. And the media is like, whoa, dude, you said you were taking questions. What's going on here? It was just a bad look all around for Tim Walz. We have three great guests coming up. We'll talk to Dave Trabert coming up next. Eric Zond, the Platte County prosecutor at 750, because he's got concerns on funding of law enforcement in Platte County. And Dr. Christine White will be here in studio at 8:05, talk about the new direction from this administration where they are not advocating to have nearly as many vaccines for young kids. That's all coming up on KCMO. All right, let me tell you what's going on with Hy-Vee's Convenient Aisles online shopping and delivery service. I love it. It's so easy. If you've got a busy life, we all do, kids or not, doesn't matter. Hy-Vee's Aisles online is as easy as downloading the app or going to Hy-Vee.com. Choose your store, select your items. Hy-Vee does the shopping for you. All you have to do is pick up the order or have it delivered to your house. Save time, save money. What could be better? Only at Hy-Vee.
from Overland Park to Parkville. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Yeah, that text to win keyword, day 2 of our flyaway contest to go see Riley Green at Stagecoach in California is green, Green. Text it to the number 95819. That's green to the number 95819. Your chance to win at 7:35. And then again in Keatsman show at 10:35, 1:35 during the Vince show, and 4:35 during the Guy Benson show. Listen for that text to win keyword. Dave Trabert with the Kansas Policy Institute joins us now on KCMO Talk Radio. Dave, it's been a couple of weeks. Happy New Year. Thanks for being here as always. Since we talked the day after it was announced the Chiefs are coming to Kansas, you and I both had a lot of questions the day after. Do you have fewer questions or just more questions over the last couple of weeks on this deal?
Oh, good morning, Pete, and Happy New Year to you. It's good to be back. I'd say more questions, and it's interesting that we're not the only ones with more questions. It seems like a lot of Kansans and even Missourians have a lot of questions about not only the components of the deal, but who's going to end up paying for it, because there will be costs. It's just a matter of how much, and the costs will be borne by taxpayers. One way or another.
I was fascinated by Laura Kelly over the holidays, was spending a lot of time talking about how this is a great deal and no new taxes and the whole thing. You know, when she's now active on social media, which she typically isn't, talking about how amazing this is, that right there just stinks to high heaven. I don't need to know anything more other than the governor, who is 75 and barely posts on social media, suddenly spending her Christmas break posting about this amazing deal for the taxpayers of Kansas and the Chiefs. It just right there, that stinks to high heaven, does it not?
Well, it's certainly a change in pattern of behavior, and there's always a reason for that it's good to try to understand. You know, speaking of change in behavior, it was interesting to see Crystal Watson seemingly backtrack.
Yes.
And saying, hey, there's no deal done yet. That sounds like she's getting a lot of negative pushback from taxpayers. And it's going to be interesting to see how the votes. Of course, she doesn't get a vote unless there's a deadlock tie. And so it'd be interesting to see if she will come out and say what her personal opinion is on this, how she would vote if she gets a vote, because there will be costs to Wyandotte County taxpayers.
You know, that's
one way or another.
So interesting, because she was one of the ones at the press conference 2 weeks ago who was, you know, she's the new mayor of Wyandotte County. God bless her. I don't have an opinion on her either way, but she stands there at the podium. She stretches out her hands and she screams, as I recall, "Welcome to Wyandotte County, the Kansas City Chiefs." And then, you're right, a week later, she's like, well, there's no deal. We're still working on some things. It's like, well, which one is it? I agree. That was another about face that really stood out to me over the last 14 days or so.
Yeah, I think people are beginning to understand that there definitely will be costs to this. So, for example, in Wyandotte County, if the people are already being taxed out of their homes with property tax, they're being squeezed left and right. And if you're trying to mitigate that, whether it's reduce it or just not make it worse, you need either every dollar of revenue you can get to offset not raising property tax, or you need to reduce spending to be able to do it. And there's no government, state, local, or federal, that has shown any willingness to dig in and understand where they can operate more efficiently. So giving up $1 of sales tax is $1 of property tax relief that can't be there.
Exactly right. That is exactly right. And these politicians do not want to be honest on the left or the right about any of this stuff right now. And the Department of Commerce continues to say, you know, the state's not raising any taxes. Well, instead, the state's directing tax revenue that could have gone to other government services to pay back the stadium debt. So, yes, there is a diversion of taxpayer monies when organically those tax receipts would have increased, if nothing else, based on inflation. And now you're paying off a stadium with those monies. and you don't think that's going to have an impact on the everyday taxpayer in Kansas? I mean, you have to be an absolute fool or not understand math to believe that, Dave.
What did Milton Friedman say? There is no such thing as a free lunch.
First thing I learned in Economics 101 at Villanova. That's the first thing on the first day. The professor gets up there and he goes, if you take anything from this class, there is no free lunch. I mean, that is so well said there, Dave. That's outstanding. Let me ask you this. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute is here on KCMO. You guys at the Sentinel have a follow-up on the State Board of Ed trying to intimidate a board member. So what is going on in Topeka in particular, and why should this be of concern to all Kansans who not just have kids in schools around the state, but pay taxes for these schools as well?
Well, so this is not something new. It's really chapter 8,923 of the book about the education bureaucracy. The system is focused on sustaining the bureaucracy first and foremost, not on improving student outcomes. So in this example is we have a state school board member, Debbie Potter, just elected about a year ago. And she has a habit of asking uncomfortable, very legitimate, but uncomfortable questions of the bureaucracy. And there is this unwritten rule that says, thou shalt not disagree or disrupt the majority. Well, she's violated that, and they finally had enough. And the attorney for the State Board of Education wrote her a series of chastising letters, not accusing her of any kind of legal violations. They just didn't like her asking the questions or taking the actions she was doing, like talking to parents. That's a no-no. We don't want to hear that. And so we asked, all right, who authorized this? Because there was not a board vote to say, let's go spend thousands of dollars and write these letters to try to intimidate her into silence. So we get the invoices for the last year, and we find the absolute documentation there of him spending hours and hours drafting letters, notifying board leadership, sending copies to the entire board. And the board chair, so we asked her, so who authorized this? Did you? Of course, she doesn't want to, Kathy Hopkins doesn't want to answer the question because that begs the question then, do you have authority to spend money to investigate an elected official for something that has nothing to do with any kind of legal violations? Now, he didn't break out the total, but we do know from looking at it that it's apparently several $1,000s that was spent on this intimidating behavior.
Wow. Several thousand. So then if you're looking at this story from afar and you're just a parent right now, is there change that you believe the state should consider as they get set to start their legislative session to have more checks and balances in this system? Or what ideally would you like to see happen that can bring more transparency and honesty to the entire system?
Well, it's interesting you say that because it's not a matter of bringing more checks and balances. Draw a line through more. There are no checks and balances in the education system. There is zero accountability. If a school district spends money illegally, nothing happens. If the school district, if the State Board of Education doesn't require improvement as called for in the Constitution, there is no consequence. They just get away with it. And when people like Debbie Potter start asking uncomfortable questions, they rush to try to silence her. I mean, they even tried to silence us. When the Sentinel reporter contacted this attorney with some questions, he tried to intimidate our reporter saying, you may not write this story. It violates attorney-client privilege. That's laughable. I mean, you can't call attorney-client privilege on media, for goodness sakes. This is just a pattern of intimidation. And it's pretty clear that the system, the education system, this is not teachers. This is system at the top trying to do anything they can to avoid educating students in order to protect the bureaucracy. This is where the legislature is going to have to step in and say, and put in the consequences. If you don't improve, if you don't follow the law, this will happen. It shall happen. It's not that the state board could take some action. They are legally required to. And that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. No, you're right. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. Great work as always, my friend. Appreciate your insight and your investigation on these things. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Pete. There's more coming later this week.
Can't wait. Be following over at the Sentinel, following all the news stories the Kansas City Star has no interest in that actually matter. Let's talk to Eric Zond. He is the Platte County prosecutor. He has serious concerns over Platte County cutting its budget to law enforcement. A surprising beef taking place up there. And then we have Dr. Christine White is going to be in studio to talk about the fact that the administration is now advising for fewer vaccines. That news came out yesterday. A busy half hour to come on KCMO.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
All right, we're going to get both sides of this up in Platte County. We right now are joined by the Platte County prosecutor, Eric Zond. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Scott Fricker is the presiding commissioner in Platte County. He will join us on KCMO. There are issues around the budget for law enforcement in Platte County. So prosecuting attorney Eric Zond is here on KCMO Talk Radio. He is claiming a $600,000 budget cut to law enforcement in the county. Eric, what do you believe the issue is here in Platte County, and what happened?
Hey, Pete, I wish I could say it's great to be with you. You know how much I love you and love your show. But yesterday was a bad day. It was a bad day for Platte County Republicans, and it was even a worse day for the safety of Platte County families, businesses, and schools. Look, Platte County Sheriff Eric Holland and I were forced yesterday to violate Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment after presiding Commissioner Scott Fricker and the two other commissioners had indicated they would slash Platte County law enforcement funding by over $500,000 on the eve of the World Cup. As you know, the greatest president of my lifetime, Ronald Reagan, told all Republicans, "Thou shalt not speak ill of any fellow Republican." And look, I've obeyed that good advice my entire life. But when fellow Republican presiding Commissioner Scott Fricker, a man who I always believed was pro-law enforcement, led the commission to dramatically cut law enforcement funding by over $600,000, when we are coincidentally expecting 600,000 people to fly into Platte County for the World Cup, I was flabbergasted. That's going to be an unbelievably great event, but we're likely going to have a massive surge in crime as a percentage of those soccer fans are going to be hooligans. In fact, it's going to be so bad that the Kansas City Police Department is building a temporary jail in KCI. Look, not even the Kansas City City Council is cutting law enforcement. They're, in fact, giving more money to law enforcement in 2026 because they know what's coming. And those tend to be, with a couple of exceptions, a whole bunch of liberals.
So what was your budget in 25, and what did you ask for in 26 versus what you got?
So we asked for a whole lot more in 2026 than even our auditor recommended. So here's how it works in budgeting. The Platte County auditor is the budget officer, and his job is to develop a balanced budget. It's got to be balanced. We can't deficit spend, and try to meet the priorities of the folks who have asked, and whatever the commission will tell him, if they'll tell him his priorities. And the problem is this commission bounces around in terms of what their priorities are all over the place. So he propounded a budget that gave law enforcement a $600,000 increase from last year. That wasn't what the sheriff needed, honestly, but the sheriff was willing to accept it. And for some reason, and I don't know the reason because Scott Fricker refuses to meet with the sheriff and me, Scott Fricker led the rest of the commission to slash that funding by $600,000. I don't understand it. This is a guy who has always said.
Wait, hold on. You just said that he was going to increase it by 600. The sheriff didn't need it, but he was going to accept it. I mean,
No. The sheriff needed more than $600.
Oh, okay.
Understand me, Pete. The sheriff needed a whole lot more. The auditor recommended $600,000. I'll be honest with you, Sheriff Holland wasn't completely happy with that, but he was willing to accept it. What we can't accept is a slash in that funding of $600,000 more dollars. That's $500 million when we've got 600,000 people coming to Kansas City. And I'm sorry.
So what was the number? 2025 versus 26.
I can't tell you the number of 2025 versus 2026. What I can tell you is that the auditor propounded a budget that was a balanced budget that gave $600,000 more to law enforcement, and then Scott Fricker came in and cut it. Why he did it, I can't tell you because he won't meet with me.
Okay. I mean, we all know how the government math sometimes can be funny math. That's why I just wanted to make this as simple as possible for the listeners right now. Eric Zahn's the Platte County prosecutor on KCMO. Now, he says, I'm seeing here in the budget news or the press release you put out yesterday that Fricker says here that basically costs just keep going up and they've got to look out for the taxpayer as well here. So how do we square all this? Because everyone's got to kind of tighten the belt a little bit here, and including law enforcement. I mean, I've been critical of KCPD that wanted, and I love the cops, but that the ask I thought was kind of ridiculous from KCPD. I mean, you got to know, Eric, people are getting squeezed left and right now all over Kansas City with these property taxes and everything else. So to play devil's advocate, what's the response on that?
Yeah, let me tell you, and I hope you'll ask Scott Fricker about this when he comes on the air, because he won't talk to me about it. Scott Fricker, 15 months ago, told the public at KCUR radio that Platte County just has excess cash. That's exactly what he said. And he also said there's really no chance that we're going to have to cut services or any of that. On his campaign website, he says public safety was my number one priority in my previous campaign, and since being elected, I've participated in 3 budgets. This year will be my 4th, and we have fully funded the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, and the courts all 3 years. And though I haven't seen the budget requests yet for 2026, I suspect that we'll fully fund these important agencies once again. And my only mistake, honestly, was taking Scott Fricker at his word. But that's the problem with words, right? Politicians can say one thing and then go do another, and that's what Scott did. And that's why, frankly, I withdrew my endorsement of him. This is a guy who I've given multiple campaign contributions to. I asked for him back, and he says he won't give them back. I don't really care about that. What I care about, and of course, that wasn't any kind of quid pro quo. That was because I thought this guy supported law enforcement, and now, sadly, I learned that I've been scammed. He doesn't, and I'm not going to sit idly by and let the citizens of Platte County, I'm telling you, Pete, Platte County is going to become a more dangerous place. And it's going to become a more dangerous place because this commission, for some reason, has decided it doesn't support law enforcement. And frankly, I think it's because there was a meeting 2 weeks ago where, I'll be honest with you, I lost my cool. I care passionately about law enforcement funding. And when I found out that the commission wasn't going to fund what I thought was an important study to help us improve how quickly we dispose of cases, because we've got a jail that is bursting at the seams. In fact, we're sending 70 people a day out to other jails at the cost of $1.2 million. That's an insane amount of money to spend on something that we ought to do, because this commission couldn't persuade the voters that we needed a new jail, which is unfortunate. I did everything I could to help them on that. But we're in a bind.
Yeah.
But we're in a bind that this commission created, and I hate to see the people of Platte County be the ones who bear the burden of this lack of law enforcement funding. And I'm not going to stand silent as this commission makes a really fateful decision.
Last thing, I got 30 seconds. Is the budget? Does the budget for 26 have more money for law enforcement than 25 or less?
I can't. It's got more money. It doesn't have enough money.
Okay,
That's
so
the
it's not.
problem.
It's basically it wasn't enough more money.
Well, it's a cut. It's a cut because remember the auditor, and you should have the auditor on too. The auditor balanced a budget.
Listen, Eric,
prioritized
no
law
one looks at their own budget in their home and says, "I've got more money," and it's a cut.
Pete, here's the thing. We've got 600,000 people coming to Kansas City. All of them are going to fly in.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I do. I'm up against Eric. We'll pick up this conversation again. I'll talk to Scott Fricker. I'll circle back with you. Does that sound good?
Hey, great, Pete. Again, it's so great to be with you. I needed to talk pretty fast today because I got.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I'm really up against Eric. I appreciate it. I just think that we've got to get both sides of this. Thank you to Eric Zahn, Platte County prosecutor on KCMO. Dr. Christine White will be here next on Health and Human Services, announcing a decrease in recommended vaccines for kids. She's next. All right, yesterday you probably saw the news. If you didn't, the CDC has announced the reduction of number of vaccines routinely recommended for all children from 17 down to 11. As the story goes, on the new schedule, vaccines that had previously been recommended for all children, such as hepatitis A and B, meningitis, seasonal flu, are now more restricted. They are recommended only for those at high risk or after consultation with a health care provider, a category that is being called shared decision making. Dr. Christine White is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. She is with Freedom Pediatrics. Find them at freedompediatrics.com right here in Overland Park. All right, Dr. White, your initial reaction to this when you saw the news yesterday was what?
Well, my initial reaction was that anytime you discuss vaccines in a very public format, that is always good to have more people be aware of the truths and to do more research. So I always like it when the vaccines are in the news.
Mm-hmm.
My initial response, though, was why did they do it the way they did it? Typically, the CDC will make recommendations about which vaccines should be on the childhood schedule based on recommendations from their advisory committee. And in this case, they made these recommendations based on what they say was rigorous scientific exploration and communication with other peer countries, deciding which vaccines should be recommended for our children because we are similar to them as far as our health and our socioeconomic status, and why are we such outliers? So the transparency, I thought, was not there.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that vaccine choice should be made between a physician and a parent, really on every vaccine. I think that there should be shared decision making with every vaccine, with every individual child and every individual lifestyle that is different from the next child's. But that was my initial response, was why did they go around their advisory committee on this and just come out with this in such a different way than they have ever done before?
Yeah. And what do you think the reason for that would be? Because you knew that criticism, listen, I mean, all this stuff sadly does get political. It really shouldn't be political. But you knew there was going to be political criticism over this and people saying this and that about RFK and Trump and whatever. But what do you think their reason would be for maybe not having that level of transparency that even you would have hoped for as someone who wants to see more freedom in this sector?
Well, I mean, it legitimately could be as simple as we do want to be more in line with peer nations, and we are giving significantly more vaccines. And what do we have to show for that? Meaning we have a significantly higher infant mortality rate, childhood mortality rate, chronic disease rate than all of those peer nations. I mean, 2 times higher in all those parameters than our peer nations. So it could just be as simple as, hey, we think we're doing something here that might be harming children. Let's make this recommendation. It doesn't actually change anything that you can get as far as vaccine. Your insurance will still pay for it. Medicaid will still pay for it. It's just a recommendation to maybe look at this in a different way. It could be that simple. But I wondered if there was more to it. And so I did some digging last night after you reached out to me and this morning, and just some background. So vaccines, for a vaccine to come to market and be given to a child, the FDA has to approve a vaccine, has to license it. The CDC then, after recommendations from its advisory committee, will then make a recommendation that it should be placed on the childhood vaccine schedule. After it's placed on that vaccine, on that recommended vaccine schedule, states actually make the decision about which vaccines they will recommend or require for children to attend public school in their states. So you don't have to get the vaccines that, say, New York requires, but your child won't be able to go to public schools. And
New York's different from Missouri and Kansas.
Every
state's got its own thing.
Every state is different, yes. And so
this doesn't change any of that.
This doesn't change anything. But one thing that I thought about was, okay, so I looked at, let's see here. So the process that they used last month when they made a change in the recommendation for the Hep B vaccine for newborns, the advisory committee met for 2 days, discussed at length all the science, and really put it all out there for the public to hear.
Which is great. I mean, that's what you want more of,
and
right?
you could be educated. So if you wanted to listen, and I did listen to the whole thing, if you wanted to listen, you would learn, okay, why do we give Hep B to babies? What is the actual science? How many people were in the studies? And after all of that was discussed, they recommended for newborns who the mother is Hep B negative, that newborns not be given a birth dose of Hep B in the hospital, that you wait till at least 2 months of age. If the mom is Hep B positive or the Hep B status is unknown, it's still recommended to get the Hep B dose in the hospital.
Okay.
And so the ACIP made that recommendation, the advisory committee, and the CDC adopted it in December. So this contrast, I was like, this is so different. So what I looked at was, okay, go back to the 1980s. There were thousands of lawsuits against vaccine manufacturers because parents believed were being harmed by vaccines. And so parents were suing Pfizer and Merck and GSK and Sanofi and whoever else made vaccines. The vaccine manufacturers said to the government, we cannot sustain this level of liability. And the government came out in 1986 with the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which basically gave a liability shield to vaccine manufacturers and vaccine administrators like pediatricians that says you cannot be sued for harms that come from vaccine.
Which feels like an overcorrection.
Well,
I get it's a legitimate issue of, they can't run their business getting sued by everybody.
Right.
But it did feel like maybe an overcorrection on the other end.
Well,
possibly or no.
And I understand why the government did it. They wanted to keep vaccines on the market, and the vaccine manufacturers are saying, we're not going to do this. But vaccines truly are the only product that you cannot sue if you are harmed. And yes, I do believe that that's an overcorrection. Now, there is a National Vaccine Injury Court where you take your complaint to, but it is it is so tedious, and you very rarely get paid. And the number of injuries that are recognized as actual injuries are very minimal. And so if you truly are injured from a vaccine, or you believe you are, you sometimes can't even get a hearing in those courts. So what I think is going on here, and I could be totally wrong, but what I think is happening here is when you look at that injury law, the law states that the vaccine must be recommended by the CDC, and then an excise tax of 75 cents must be paid by the manufacturer for each vaccine dose given to fund the vaccine injury court. Now, just because the CDC changed its recommendations does not mean that all these vaccines, these 6 that now they've said are just shared decision making or just to get to high risk, that does not mean that they fall off of this injury protection or liability shield. But I am wondering if it is the first step to say, hey, we are no longer recommending these. Hey, Congress, do we want to relook at this law? So you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think that there's more than meets the eye to what they did yesterday.
Okay, so just to reset, Dr. Christine White, Freedom Pediatrics, is here. Yesterday, the CDC reduced the number of vaccines routinely recommended for kids from 17 to 11. What you're suggesting is the possibility that by reducing the number from 17 to 11, it could basically rewrite that law. Congress could eventually rewrite that law from the 1980s that would basically take those, whatever they are, 6 vaccines and remove them from being a part of the liability shield.
That is one possibility. I mean, this is a huge can of worms.
Yes,
and
it is.
And you just don't know where it's going to go. But there have been many people calling to relook at this law for decades.
Yes.
And this may be the way that you get your foot in the door to say, hey, I'm going to force you to look at this law. And I do think that law should be looked at. As you said, it was probably an overcorrection.
Wow. Christine White is here. Okay, so just in terms of what it means, there was such an overreaction, it seems like, to it yesterday because, to your point, it doesn't change anything on the state level, which is where all this stuff is decided for schools and who can go and who can't, right?
Exactly. But what it does is it puts a question into more parents' minds. Wait, why did the CDC just do this? Should I look more into this? Should I do more reading? Should I ask more questions? Should I ask my pediatrician? Should I ask my legislators? It sows doubt and fear and questions in the minds of parents, and vaccine proponents do not like when there is questioning or fear.
Yeah, well, we've seen that, unfortunately, ad nauseum over the last few years. You're right about that. So in large part, you're saying anytime this stuff is in the news and it makes parents do their own research, that's a good thing.
Yes. Because most parents will go to their pediatrician and the pediatrician will say, okay, today your 2-month-old is getting 8 vaccines. And they'll say, okay.
Yeah.
Say then down the road, your child develops something unusual and you start to question it. I would love it if people would start to question it before there was a potential harm. And I do recommend some vaccines for my patients. I am not against vaccines. I am pro-health and pro-choice as far as take your child, look at his or her lifestyle, decide which vaccines are right for him based on his lifestyle and based on your family history. If you have a huge family history of autism, autoimmune disease, atopic disease like allergies, asthma, eczema, your risk from vaccines and having one of those conditions develop is higher than a child that has none of that in their background. And there is study after study that shows that. So what I like is that this will make some parents question it potentially before there was something that forced them to question it because they perceived that their child was harmed by a vaccine.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, the frustrating, and not even frustrating, the disappointing part of this to me is that people see headlines from yesterday and they immediately just go into their corners instead of saying, hey, let's actually have the conversation.
Exactly.
Let's see what the gray area is.
Yep.
Because settled science is not, there's no such thing as settled science, right?
No,
it's always evolving.
It's always evolving, yes.
Wow. Dr. Christine White here on KCMO, Freedom Pediatrics. Thank you for being here. Any final thought that you want to share with the audience in terms of what yesterday's news means and how they should really interpret this going forward for their kids and their families?
Well, it does take time to educate yourself. It takes time to read books, and books are really what you must read. But the takeaway is take some time, order some books, read the books, do your homework. You choose what to put in your child's body as far as food. You research that. Research this as well. Take the time and do your homework.
Is there one book, last word, that you would recommend? One thing that stands out to you?
My favorite book is The Vaccine Friendly Plan by Dr. Paul Thomas.
Okay. Paul Thomas, The Vaccine Friendly Plan. I'm just typing it into my computer here. Vaccine Friendly Plan. Dr. Paul's safe and effective approach to immunity and health. There you go. I like that. All right, Dr. White, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Christine White, Freedom Pediatrics on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. Coming up, one of the great old clips you will hear, and it's totally appropriate in the wake of the biggest news story this week. We'll play it next.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, a full lineup reacting to the huge developments in Venezuela and Iran, also major political news as well. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
We got Tirade Tuesday, our first one of 2026, coming up in 10 minutes. Line up and get ready for Tirade Tuesday in 10 minutes here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So I saw this clip circulating social media last night. It is an old clip of legendary Major League Baseball broadcaster Vin Scully, of course, with the LA Dodgers, talking about socialism. And talking specifically about South America and Venezuela. And in the wake of the news this week, here is a legendary clip from Vin Scully as he talks about what a failure the entire system is.
Socialism failing to work as it always does, this time in Venezuela. You talk about giving everybody something free and all of a sudden there's no food to eat. And who do you think is the richest person in Venezuela? The daughter of Hugo Chavez. Hello. Anyway, 0-2.
Anyway, it's 0-2, and here's the fact. Oh, it's low and outside. That's ball one. Vin Scully. No one did it better when it comes to Major League Baseball broadcasting. And the way that you weave in that storytelling, it reminds me of one of my worst moments ever as a broadcaster. And it was when I was interviewing for the New York Mets pre- and post-game job. This was probably, 12 years ago now. And I get in there with the guy that I grew up listening to, Howie Rose, who's been the voice of that team for going on 35 years now, give or take. And part of the job was not just doing the pre- and post-game. It was also being the backup play-by-play guy. And I had not done a lot of baseball. I had done a lot of basketball. I've done a decent amount of football play-by-play. I had not done at that point a lot of baseball. Still haven't. It's a much different broadcast. It's slower. It's storytelling. It's weaving these things in and out of your game because it's not fast-paced like basketball up and down the court. Football, obviously, same deal. It's really a storytelling broadcast. And the way that Vin Scully did it, obviously, was what made him one of the all-time greats. And I totally bombed out. I mean, I was horrible. I was nervous. I hadn't done a lot of it. I'm sitting next to a guy I grew up listening to. I'm 26 at the time, give or take. And I failed miserably. And it all worked out, obviously, for me in the end. And I could not be happier with how it worked out. But the way that Vin Scully can weave in a story about the failures of socialism and Venezuela into his broadcast in a clip that's gone viral here over the last 12 hours or so is a thing of beauty, an absolute thing of beauty. Now, what's not a thing of beauty is Tim Walz's career arc. That has been an absolute, utter failure. And Tim Walz announced yesterday that he is not seeking re-election as the governor of Minnesota in the wake of what has been a brutal few weeks on the news cycle front, including most recently the alleged daycare fraud that has been happening for years all around that state. And I'm trying to think of worse career trajectories than being a losing vice presidential candidate in the 21st century. Think about some of the names who have been losing vice presidential candidates this century. Joe Lieberman, John Edwards, Sarah Palin, Paul Ryan, Tim Kaine, Mike Pence, and Tim Walz. The only job I think that has a worse career trajectory than that is being the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. That's the only thing I can think of that's worse than being a losing vice presidential candidate. I mean, none of these guys or gals have really done anything. That was kind of their apex. And now you're looking at gigs like this and you're like, boy, you know what? I'd rather be anything but a losing VP candidate. That is an absolute loser of a position when you go back 25 years at this point. Wow, that's a brutal lineup. What's not a brutal lineup is our lineup for Tirade Tuesday. Get them going. Our first of 2026, 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday is coming up. In the meantime, Hy-Vee's convenient aisles online shopping and delivery service has been great for my family because we're all busy, right? I mean, the last thing you want to do, as much as I do it, the last thing you want to do is have to go into the grocery store, bring the kids, drag them in. You can avoid all that now with the convenience of Hy-Vee's aisles online. Download the app, go to Hy-Vee.com, choose your store, select your items. Hy-Vee does the shopping for you. Just pick up the order. Save time, save money. What could be better? Only at Hy-Vee.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
It's 8:34, and for the first time in 2026, let's rock.
It's time for Tirade Tuesday on 95.7 FM, KCMO.
How dare you?
Tirade Tuesday, 913-408-7957. Whatever you want to get off your chest, I don't care what the topic is. It's the only 10 minutes of the week that you get to determine the direction of the content. 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday is off and running. You call in. Mark and John will hook you up. We'll get you on the air. Let's start with Alex in Linwood. What is your tirade, Alex?
What's up, Peter? Hey, my tirade's with you, actually.
All right. I mean, go ahead.
Hey, all these famous people are always on, local news personalities and stuff like that, and everybody calls you Peter. And I think us as a listening base are offended that none of us ever knew your full name was Peter.
Well, who does that?
Well, I don't know, but we're considering maybe renaming the show the Peter Show.
I don't know who calls me that in local media.
Oh, there was a lady. The last one that did it was a lady, and I don't know who the hell she was.
Was I on TV with her, or was she on this show?
No, it's always on this show.
On this show, was she a local person or a national person?
That I don't remember.
All right.
Our guest in here is
I'll let you know. I'll figure out who they were.
All right. Well, you got to tell me. You got to come with the goods, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who it was. I can't, and I don't want to correct people on the air. It's not like they called me Steve. I mean, they just, they called me by my birth name, which is fine. Not my preferred. Only my mother really calls me that at this point. So, Alex, I'll take the tirade and I'll try to correct it when I can. Now I'm curious to know who he's talking about. Who do you think?
Well, I think it's Harris. Faulkner sometimes maybe just, says it casually.
I don't think so. I feel like I would remember that. I don't know.
Oh, does it stick out when somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sticks
I don't like
out.
Being called Johnny, but, it just
sticks,
happens.
It sticks out when someone does it.
Mm-hmm.
And if Harris was doing that for the last few years, I would have said something. I think. There is someone who does it. I just can't think of who it is right now. All right. Well, we'll keep it going. 913-408-7957. I didn't expect Tirade Tuesday to start there, but that's the beauty of the segment. I literally set it up by saying, I don't care what you talk about. Victor in Parkville, go ahead. What's your tirade?
Good morning, Pete. And I don't remember Harris ever calling you Peter.
All right, Victor, what's your tirade? Go ahead. Keep it rolling.
Well,
Keep forward momentum. Forward momentum. Go ahead.
Okay, that has to do with Eric Zahn. I didn't catch the whole segment, but a couple of things he said actually stuck out to me. At least he admitted that an increase is a cut. Now, that's politic-speak and or Democrat speak, so that kind of irritated me. Then he's talking about 600,000 people are coming into Kansas City for the World Cup. Well, that's a KCPD issue. And if they're going down the I-29 corridor or coming in at the airport, those are also KCPD issues. That's not Platte County Sheriff's Department issues. And the other thing that I heard is he said, I did everything to fund or help get the funding for the jail. Did I miss the commercials? I certainly didn't get any of the flyers. I didn't hear him on your show promoting that we needed a new jail. I did hear, through the pipeline that he wanted bigger offices for the prosecutor's office, and he was on board with the judges who wanted to build this giant fiasco of a justice center like they got in Clay County that was a fiasco. So, no, I'm sorry. And I think when Pete comes on or when Scott comes on later, as I understand it, the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's department have got 20 to 29% increases over the last 3 years per year. So I don't know what he's complaining about, because Scott's done what he could to actually increase the salaries of the sheriff's department to bring them up to staff.
All right, thank you.
I'm looking forward to hearing Scott in the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah, we had on, thank you, Victor, Platte County Prosecutor Eric Zond at the end of the 7 o'clock hour. He's claiming budget cuts are coming to law enforcement in Platte County. We'll hear from the presiding commissioner in Platte County, Scott Fricker, at 9:20 this morning and get his response to all of this. So appreciate that tirade, Victor. 913-408-7957. Lines are open on a Tirade Tuesday, first one of 2026. Let's go to Eli in Independence. Eli, what's your tirade?
Hey, Pete. I cannot pour coffee out of my coffee pot. It always flows down the front and just gets everywhere and burns my feet.
Your feet? I mean, are you so you know that you are terrible at pouring coffee, and you don't even put the cup down on the countertop to pour the coffee, knowing full well you can't pour it straight into the mug.
That is correct.
That's an Eli problem, is what that is.
Yeah, it was a good tirade, though.
Thank you very much to Eli and Independence for that. He pours coffee all over his feet every morning. All right, Eli. I mean, if I had a good vision doctor for you to go to, I'd recommend one. But I have one, but I don't want to throw him love on the air. We've got endorsements for that, right? Chris and Leewood, what's your tirade, my man?
Hey, Pete. It's kind of a passive-aggressive tirade at the Chiefs stadium deal. And I just want to provide Mark Donovan, the Hunt family, Chiefs organization, a couple of small pieces of advice. I would definitely retain the Arrowhead name at the new location. And also, we've been talking about a retractable roof in Kansas City for 60 years. So if they don't put an absolutely incredible, best in the world retractable roof on this new stadium, that would be a unforgivable mistake on the architectural team and on the organization.
I hate to break it to you, Chris. This dome stadium is going to look like every other generic dome stadium that's been built over the last decade. They all look the same.
That's very sad. That will be very sad.
I mean, they'll tell you it's going to be just like Arrowhead and this and that, and they'll tell you what you want to hear. But trust me, I mean, look at them. I mean, the Commanders, the Vikings, they all have a very similar look and very stale feel. And no matter how much they try to convince you otherwise, it's going to come out just like all the others do.
I hope you are wrong.
I hope I am too. I would love to be wrong about that. I really would love to be wrong about that. I will be shocked if I am.
Hey, and can I say one other tirade against the Royals that while we're at stadium talk is they were always the Kansas City Royals, never the Jackson County Royals, depending on what happens. I think the Paseo site is a complete mistake. I've long said that if the Negro Leagues Museum had been put on Main instead of Vine, it might actually get some traffic and be economically viable. So to try to redevelop an area with a stadium over on Paseo, I think would just be a tragic mistake for the ball club. And I think because of the size of the tract in North Kansas City, you would actually extend the core of the city all the way from the plaza up to Armour Road or Armour Boulevard, whatever that is, and give the Kansas City a real expand the size of the city, give it a Wrigleyville up north, and make it a more international type city.
All right, Chris Leewood, thank you very much, my man. I appreciate that. I will say this. I'll just end the segment by talking about some of what Chris just mentioned there. 18th and Vine is not going to happen. I mean, and to Chris's point, there's been $400 million of investment, public funding, private development for revitalization. And you tell me what's changed. I think the museum is fantastic. I love it. Not a bad idea from Chris, but I understand why it is where it is. But he's probably not wrong in terms of what would be better for it in hindsight. It's not going to change, but, he's got a point there. Not going to happen there. But I did see the Kansas City Business Journal had a story yesterday saying Mayor Lucas is trying to revive the East Village location. We're back where we were 2 years ago. I mean, I'm telling you, Coach Q is going to be done with his 3-year extension he just got yesterday before they pick a stadium site. Remember, the East Village was the original location that got attention for the Royals. And then what happened? Well, really, the city tried to strong-arm the Royals into that Crossroads location, at the old Kansas City Star building. Why? Because they could tie into Power and Light. Power and Light is owned by Cordish, the development company out of Baltimore. Power and Light loses money every year, about $10 to $15 million a year. The city has to basically backfill to pay for Power and Light because it still does not generate enough money to pay for itself. So the city, I think rightfully so, said, why would we want a competing entertainment district, whatever it is, a half mile down the road from Power and Light, 81 nights a year with this Royals Stadium and Ballpark Village, when we can tie it into Power and Light? It was actually the right move for the city and the taxpayer to have it at the old Star building. But now we're floating out the idea of going back to the East Village, and round and round and round we go. 9 o'clock hour, Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, is going to be here on how energy prices could be impacted by what happened in Venezuela this week. And then Scott Fricker, Platte County Commissioner, is going to be here at 9:20 to respond to allegations that he is anti-law enforcement in the wake of the 2026 budget up there in Platte County. 913-408-7957. How you join us as we roll till 10 o'clock. Keatsman Uncanceled takes over then.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, if you were hoping to beat Sharice Davids by redistricting in Kansas, it is not going to happen. Kansas House Speaker Dan Hawkins, Wichita Republican, told reporters yesterday, per the Kansas City Star, that he does not have the votes necessary to pass a new congressional map over the all but certain veto of Democrat Governor Laura Kelly. So we know that there was a push here in the last couple of months to have a special session in Kansas to redistrict the state, basically, let's be honest, gerrymander the state in a way that would squeeze out Laura Kelly like they did in Missouri with Emmanuel Cleaver. And now it looks like that is not going to happen. We thought the votes were going to be there in the Senate, but the House never got there. And now it looks like they will have to basically either one of two things: wait for a Republican governor to come in 2027 and do it then, or just wait until redistricting naturally happens after the next census in 2030.
Seems like a good idea because we got busy gerrymandering a Starbonds district. Been busy playing with maps, haven't we?
Yeah. I think they've screwed up enough maps for 1 year. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. But now, I was thinking about it too when I saw the story here this morning. There has been not a single name that I've heard come up to run against Sharice Davids that's like a legitimate name. It's not a swing district anymore. It's not. As long as she's there, and probably long after she's gone, it's a blue district. And there's no evidence to suggest that it's changing. That's why, I'm going to tie this in very briefly to the Chiefs' plans in Wyandotte County and then also in Olathe, where they want to have their corporate headquarters and their training facility, and they want to have mixed use, which means what? Apartments, right? The same Kansas Republicans who complain about the power shift in Johnson County, it's growing as a percentage of the state's population because the rural areas are shrinking. Johnson County is growing very quickly. And a lot of that is because of the bad apartment policies of the cities and the county. And now the Republicans at the statewide level were dumb enough to play along in that game because they view themselves as somehow saving the Chiefs. If Clark Hunt at least wanted to help out the Kansas Republicans on that narrative of like, we saved the Chiefs, he could have at least threatened or pretended to threaten that he was going to leave Kansas City. Well, Dallas could use a second team. That would have been doing a favor to the Republicans who are now out there saying, and all the politicians who are now out there saying, we saved the Chiefs. You didn't save anyone. They never said they were going anywhere. There was never any threat. At least if Clark Hunt had thrown him a bone and said publicly, yeah, we're exploring all our options, wink, wink, nod, nod, then the Kansas politicians could have said, we saved the team. Clark didn't even do that for him. And they still got away with upwards of $3 billion. What a deal, man. What a deal. So anyway, back to the apartments. We know what's going on in Overland Park and really many parts of Johnson County, Lenexa, Shawnee. You're seeing it all over Johnson County in particular. And it's not the reason, to be clear, it's not the reason that Sharice Davids is winning elections. She's got a pretty sharp team around her. I'll give her that much. She knows how to continue to pretend like she is middle of the road. And yes, there is a leftward lean in the county that is definitely cutting in her favor. But the Kansas Republicans who complain about the makeup of the state are actually helping Johnson County by helping the Chiefs gain more power, gain more population, and jam more apartments into likely Wyandotte County and also Olathe. And Wyandotte County officials are playing that game. That's not surprising to me. It's disappointing to know that Olathe officials are playing that game. I mean, Olathe, I guess, is trying to compete with Overland Park to see who can jam in more apartments on a per capita basis annually than the other. That's the game that appears to be getting played by Olathe, and it's wildly disappointing. I mean, at least try to get some condos in there. At least try to get some ownership in some of these mixed-use developments. Ownership is the key. Ownership leads to a less transient population. It leads to people feeling like they're being a part of a community. They have skin in the game. They're not just in another rental property. If there's any message to these leaders on what appears to be, in my estimation, a boondoggle of a deal, at least try to get yourself some ownership and condos into these air quotes mixed-use facilities that are going to be part of the equation. That's the very least you could do at this point. And I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I'd love to, once again, like I was saying to the last caller, I'd love to be wrong about the makeup of what the new stadium's going to look like and how it's going to feel. I don't think at this point I will be wrong. I would love to be wrong about the makeup of the mixed use at these facilities in Wyandotte County and Olathe. I really want to be wrong about it. But history would suggest that it's going to be just like all the other facilities. Apartments, couple of restaurants, and that's how they all go. And the Kansas Republicans complaining about Johnson County, well, guess what? They are now officially, based on how they voted, part of the problem. Way to go, fellas and gals. Way to go. Coming up next, we are going to talk to Daniel Turner. He is with Power the Future. We'll talk about how the energy prices might be impacted by the arrest of Maduro and what that means for the rest of the world as well when it comes to global energy prices. And then we've got Scott Fricker, presiding commissioner in Platte County. He's going to respond to the allegation that he is not pro-law enforcement after the Platte County 2026 budget came out. All of that is coming up in a busy 9 o'clock hour. Pete Mundo on 95.7 FM, KCMO. So all this Maduro stuff, I mean, yes, it's very geopolitical, and we've talked a lot about that over the last 48 hours or so. But what does it mean for you at the pump? We are seeing gas prices continue to trend down here in the Kansas City area. I think I paid, what did I pay at Hy-Vee the other day? $2.55 a gallon. It always is 2 9. There's always a 9 on the end of it, right? I don't know why. Can we just get 256 or 255? Why do we need 255.9? I don't get it. But either way, we're in a good spot on gas prices. What's going to happen with our gas prices, if anything, in the wake of the news this week? Daniel Turner is with Power the Future. He's joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. They are fighting for American energy every single day. All right, Daniel, what's your read on what this Maduro news means for gas prices here around the U.S.?
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable to see oil markets pretty steady despite this pretty significant intervention. I mean, just go back in the past. Anytime there was a headline like tensions in the Straits of Hormuz or something in the Caribbean, a hurricane was on its way, oil prices would go up $10, $12 a barrel. Oil did go up. I think it went up $1 and change a barrel, but that's really going to have no impact on your gas prices at the pump. And I think the reason for that is there's so much resilience in oil markets. They look to the future. They look how much we're producing in America. We're at record level production. They look at permitting. They look at financing, and they say, yeah, that deal in Venezuela, that's an issue, but it's not going to impact us, right? And that's just the magic and the mystery of the free markets at work. Not long ago, an action like that, we would have seen a huge spike in oil, and there would have been this huge level of uncertainty, and that's gone now. Pretty remarkable how much things have changed in just not even 12 months.
That is pretty amazing. I mean, we all know that Texas obviously produces far and away the most oil in this country of any state. Kansas, I mean, it's not top 5 per se, but, I was looking at the numbers this morning. Kansas produces about 28 million barrels of oil. So it's kind of, in the top 10, I guess you would say, of oil-producing states in the country, more or less. But what does it mean when it comes to the future of oil production here in the United States? Do you think it's still full steam ahead, drill, baby, drill, or do you see some pullback here going forward?
No, I think it's still full steam ahead. And I'm sure if you're in the oil business, a little increase in price is good news for you, because when you have additional money in your pocket, you're able to invest it into the future, more drilling, more opportunity, more land leases, et cetera. I don't think the industry is slowing down anytime soon. I think the president, his remarks about the oil industry in Venezuela and in U.S. investment, this isn't really so much about oil as much as it is about geopolitics. This is my take. I could be completely wrong, but this is my hunch. And I mean, let's face it, I'm not wrong, right? I'm right. But let's just pretend and be humble and say this is just a hunch.
Well, that's very nice of you, Daniel. Very nice of you. All right, let's. I'm ready for it, though.
This is all about communist China. The president is launching the most strategic offensive against China, who is our biggest threat in the world by far. And he is doing it without even mentioning the name China. He talks about how he has a great relationship with Chairman Xi and great respect for that country. But look at the sanctions. Look at the movement of manufacturing back to America. Look at the movement of technology back to America. He shut down the purchasing of that crappy solar and wind and EVs and batteries. All of that stuff hurts China. And if you are China and you have to import all of your oil, because China has almost no domestic production, where are they getting their oil from? Well, they were getting it from Iran, and now Iran's oil is shut down because of U.S. sanctions are back. They were getting it from Venezuela. Well, now Venezuela has a blockade on oil. Okay, they still have a relationship with Russia, but Russia's got a lot of problems going on right now, particularly in Ukraine. So if you are communist China, you are getting hit from every single angle by a man who smiles on TV and says, I have great respect for Chairman Xi. So that's what I think this is about. I think, yes, it's about getting rid of Maduro. And, just the fact that he dumped hundreds of thousands of criminals into our nation, that alone is a war crime that he should be arrested on. But in addition to that, we're also able to put China in check. And I think that is a level of 3D chess that he is not ever going to get credit for.
Daniel Turner, Power the Future, is joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio in Kansas City, fighting for American energy. So what about the issue of gas prices continuing to come down? Some people are kind of poo-pooing it and saying, hey, it's not that much lower than last year, and it's that time of year anyway. Where do you forecast these prices going in the months and year to come, Daniel, when a lot of people are just looking for any relief wherever they can find it, and thankfully gas has at least been part of that equation so far for this administration?
It has, and the rest of the relief is going to take time to get squeezed out of Biden's inflation. And I think we've talked about this before on your show. When you have very high energy prices, that means everything that is produced and manufactured and irrigated and cultivated and harvested, that becomes very expensive, and that gets baked into the goods and services that you purchase. We had 4 years of Biden oil at $95, $100, $135 a barrel. Well, it took a little while for it to hit your beef prices and the price of your goods and things you're buying at the store. It got built into it and baked into it. It's going to take some time for that to get squeezed out, but it will, because now, look at your neighbors not far from your studio who are farmers. They're getting ready to plan for the spring. And what are they planning at? They're planning a diesel at $3.75, $4 a gallon. That's a hell of a lot different than diesel at $7.75 a gallon. So all of these prices are going to start coming down. The sad thing is, and the very frustrating thing is, it's going to take a little bit of time, right? When Biden took office day one, we didn't feel it day one. We felt his inflation 2-3 years down the road. And by the time he was at the 4-year mark, people were like, get rid of this guy. Well, we need a little bit of patience for this to turn around. It will, but it's going to take some time.
Now, that's a good point, because all this stuff obviously is planning ahead and looking at where prices go for those who obviously need energy in whatever it is their line of work is and what their businesses are. So do you see do you see an economy where prices are actually coming down, Daniel? Or do you think that we're in a place where if we can just stabilize this for a period of time and allow wages to catch up over time, that's really going to be the win here?
No, I think prices will come down, and look at certain consumer goods, eggs being the best example, right? One of the main reasons why egg prices were so high is because the Biden administration slaughtered every single chicken they could get their hands on, right? Other countries don't do that.
I thought that was flu related, in fairness.
Absolutely, but other countries don't do that. And people, if any of your listeners who have chickens or are chicken farmers know, a lot of countries say, hey, we don't cull the entire flock of chickens. We let some of them build up immunity, and then they pass on those genetics, and now we have a new line of defense against avian flu. We don't do that in America. We just slaughter willy-nilly. And what happens when you have fewer chickens? Egg prices go through the roof. So why did I bring up eggs? Because, you can start laying eggs at just a couple of months old chickens. So we've hatched a whole new batch of chickens, and we've got hundreds of millions of new chickens. The same thing will happen with beef. But beef takes 4 and 5 years. It doesn't take 4 and 5 months. So prices will come down across the board. It is going to take time depending upon the good that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem here, though, and this is where I get so frustrated in this line of work, all of this begins with a bunch of idiot bureaucrats who tinker in industries they don't understand, right? We had Jennifer Granholm. We had Deb Haaland, the whole Biden team. No idea what the hell they were doing, but they had power and they were going to wield it. And we all suffered the consequences, right? Now we have a bunch of folks who actually work in the energy space. Chris Wright, our energy secretary, worked in the oil and gas space. He's not going to tinker in the same nonsensical way that idiot Jennifer Granholm did. Remember when Jennifer Granholm was asked about oil prices and she laughed? She laughed and said, oh, come on. Oil is controlled by OPEC. What cowardice. What stupidity that you just thwart the entire industry and say there's nothing I can do. Good God, lady, then get out of the damn job. So 4 years of that, and this is where we ended up. Things will get better. It is going to take a little time, but it's a warning of who we elect. Because if we elect morons, and my home city of New York City is dealing with this now, if we elect morons, they are going to screw things up royally, and we all suffer.
Daniel Turner, Power of the Future. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time there, my friend.
Thank you, Pete. Always a pleasure to be on your program.
You as well. Daniel Turner, good stuff, Power of the Future, as they advocate for American energy across the country. Coming up next, we are going to talk to Scott Fricker. He is the presiding commissioner of Platte County, and get his response to the allegations that he is not fully funding law enforcement in the 2026 budget. What does he have to say about that? We'll ask him after talking to the Platte County prosecutor this morning, Eric Zond. So Scott Fricker is here next on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
The allegations yesterday from folks in law enforcement in Platte County is that the commission up there is not pro-law enforcement. Scott Fricker is the presiding commissioner of the Platte County Commission. He joins us here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You can always stream us at KCMOTalkRadio.com or on the Alexa, Google Home, or our KCMO Talk Radio app. So, Scott, I want to start off with the question I asked Eric Zond, and that is, what is the money you are giving law enforcement in the 2026 budget compared to the 2025 budget?
Well, good morning, Pete. I appreciate the opportunity to rebut the prosecutor's ridiculous accusations. To answer that question, the prosecutor and the sheriff are both getting budget increases this year. In fact, including the 26 budget that we just passed yesterday, the sheriff's office has received over the past 3 years an average annual increase in his budget of 29%, 29% per year over those budgets. And the prosecutor's office has received an average annual increase of 27% per year. So there has been no shortage of law enforcement funds, and for the sheriff and the prosecutor to go out and publicly attack the commission for being not pro law enforcement is just ridiculous. They have every tool they need to protect the people of Platte County, and because they didn't get, this is really a nothing, Pete. I'll tell you what it's over. The prosecutor wanted us to fund a $65,000 study. Commission said no, we didn't think it was worth it, and he freaked out.
Study for what?
A backlog of prosecutions in the courthouse, and the court needs to be better at moving those through the system. And because of that backlog, we have a severely overcrowded jail. And the study would have looked into that situation. But Zahn himself said that it was unlikely to lead to any positive impacts. And the sheriff has agreed to fund that out of his budget. So this study is a nothing. The only thing left that it could be is that the sheriff and the prosecutor both wanted a 5% COLA, cost of living adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
We gave everybody else in the county 2.5%. And we gave them the same thing. So we're talking about a COLA here. We're talking about 2.5% COLA. We're talking about a COLA, Pete. And because of that, Eric Zahn says the people of Platte County are not going to be safe, and the commission, and specifically Commissioner Fricker, do not support law enforcement. It couldn't be further from the truth. We have funded them, given them everything they wanted for the first 3 budgets that I have been a commissioner for. Every single thing they asked for. And this year, because our revenues, over the period of time when their budgets grew at 29% and 27% per year, revenues have been flat. Flat. So this was a budget when we had to tighten our belts.
So
and the sheriff and the prosecutor aren't willing to do that. So I just don't understand that.
So they'll say, this is a cut, and that was something I talked to Eric Zond about, because it's not as much as, let's say, the inflation rate, and not the increase that they claim the county auditor recommended. What would you say to the county auditor portion of this, who I guess recommended more money than you guys put into the budget?
Every year, the county auditor puts together a draft budget. It is merely a recommendation, and the commission makes many, many changes to the auditor's budget. The auditor doesn't set policy. The auditor puts together a draft budget, and we make lots of changes. And the reduction of $600,000, I think is the number that Zahn is throwing around, is a reduction from the auditor's budget to the commission budget. the auditor's budget is irrelevant. And so the cut is fictitious. There is no cut.
Yeah.
As I said, their budget is bigger in 26 than it was in 25. And all of their positions are filled. In my first budget in 23, starting deputies were making $40,000 a year. We increased it to 45, and then 50, and then 55. And over that time period, we filled, the sheriff went from having more than 20 vacancies in his deputy ranks to having a completely full staff. So the sheriff and the prosecutor are fully funded. Plus, we spent millions of dollars on brand new office complexes for both of them. We can't do any more than we've done. This year, I wish they wouldn't ask us for money that we didn't have, but that's what they're doing. They want more money, and we don't have it to give. And
why?
So it's a year to tighten our belts.
Yeah. I'm curious, revenues are flat going back to 23 in Platte County is what you just alluded to. How is, with just the increases, and I know that you guys have actually been pretty responsible or tried to be regarding property taxes up there, unlike some of the other surrounding counties. But just with, inflation, sales tax revenues, how has Platte County not seen any increase in revenues going back 3 years?
Yeah, good question. I think, as you know, in 2024, we cut the county's property tax levy from a very low 6 cents to an almost non-existent 1 cent. Okay, that led to about $1.5 million in annual revenue decrease, which is not a big number, but we were able to do it because we had sales tax revenues that exceeded projections. And so we had excess cash. And there's only two things governments can do with excess cash. They can either come up with new programs and other ways to spend it, or they can give it back to the taxpayer. We gave it back to the taxpayer because we think they should keep as much of their hard-earned money as possible.
So
because of that decrease, our overall revenue over these years has been flat.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so last thing then, just law enforcement, the overall budget in 25, you're spending how many millions versus what you're going to be doing in 2026? What is that overall number if you happen to have it?
For the entire budget? I don't have those numbers in front of me, Pete. I don't want to speak without having the right numbers.
But you are saying the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office will be getting more money than it got 2.5% more than last year, and that is what everybody else got in Platte County.
Yes. Everybody who works for the county is getting a 2.5% cost of living adjustment increase.
Okay, got it. So then the last thing,
including that.
Okay, all right, I got it. Just real quick, then the last thing, the notion that you are anti-cop, which was alleged by the prosecutor up there in Platte County.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's ridiculous. As I stated, we have given them every single thing they asked for in the previous 3 budgets. I think public safety is local government's absolute number one responsibility, outside of making sure that the county is fiscally stable and sound. And so, subject to the county's ability to pay its bills, we will fund our law enforcement agencies as much as we possibly can.
All right. Presiding Commissioner of Platte County, Scott Fricker, thank you for the time, Scott. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pete.
You bet. Coming up, our caller of the day is next before Keatsman Uncanceled at 10.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Some drama in Platte County. How about that? Infighting between the law enforcement folks and the county commission, John.
Didn't see that coming.
That was not on my 2026 bingo card.
No, we have the Clay County, maybe a baseball stadium stuff. We've got the Johnson County, maybe a baseball stadium stuff, but I did not see Platte County entering the fray.
No, they said, hey, don't forget about us over here, okay? Wyandotte County's got the stadium. Platte County needed something to get some drama over, and they have found it here with this deal. There's no doubt about that.
They're not just drive-through country to the airport.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Hey, I've said it before. If I could live anywhere in the metro, I'd live in Platte County. I love Platte County. I love their government. I love the way it operates. I love the beauty of it. I just don't want to drive 35 minutes to work at 4 in the morning.
Touche.
All right. So such is life.
Gotta like driving if you live in Platte County.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I would have a nice trip to the airport, but I don't go to the airport enough to justify living that close to the airport. It's just a little too far. It's like 37 minutes is my drive to the airport right now. 38 maybe if I'm going a little slower. I wish it was 10 minutes closer, but you know what? I can't control that.
My college girlfriend was from Buffalo, so I'd take her to the airport. And so by the time I got back home to South Kansas City out in Martin City, she was in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yes. Literally, yes. You're right about that. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let's get to our caller of the day. We were talking about this this morning. Nick Schroer, a Missouri Republican in the state Senate, has filed 3 bills to basically try to stick it to the Chiefs. The full bill texts are not yet available online, and the Chiefs are not explicitly named in any of these 3 bill summaries. But the first bill would require the Chiefs to pay and demolish Arrowhead Stadium. The second bill would ban any professional sports team from receiving tax credits if it plays in a facility with a capacity of at least 75,000 people. That is obviously only the Chiefs. And the third bill from Schroer would require a professional sports team that announces plans to relocate to another state to charge an extra $50 in every ticket sold and an additional 5% charge on all purchases inside the stadium. I don't know how that's sticking it to the Chiefs. That's sticking it to the average fan. That's what that is. So, Nick Schroer, I don't know him well. He is a hardline conservative in the state Senate in Jeff City. I don't think this stuff is going anywhere, but whatever. It was the headline story at the Kansas City Star this morning, and it just makes me think, too, hey, if I'm Missouri right now, I don't think Kehoe wants any part of a fight with the Chiefs, and frankly, I don't think he should want to fight with the Chiefs. Not because I think the door is open to stay in Missouri. I am in no way suggesting that or claiming that at all. I'm not. But there's still a lot that's got to be figured out in Kansas. Now, they're going, okay, 99.99% chance they're going. But I'm telling you, there's still a lot of things out there that have to be figured out. The Starbond District is not even 100% finalized yet. We have an idea of what it's going to look like based on the maps that were released by the Commerce Department, but it's not 100% finalized, which means you don't really know who's out there to buy the bonds on this deal, what they're going to be rated, and who's going to be involved in any of this. Apparently, we still may not have a location yet, right? I mean, has anyone heard a specific location for the stadium yet? Ask yourself why that might be. So there's still more here than the politicians are telling us. So if I'm Missouri, you just play nice for a little bit. I mean, what's the big deal at this point? Like, what are you going to do? Stick it to them? You had a deal anyway. Jackson County owns the stadium. Jackson County, unfortunately, has to figure out what to do with that stadium. And that's how these deals go. It's going to be the same thing on the other side of state line. All right. These teams do not actually want to own these stadiums, but they get to reap all the rewards of basically pretending they're the owners without actually being the owners because they don't want to pay property taxes. They want to figure out how to get money for their own upkeep and things like that. And that's part of how it's going to work here in Kansas. The reports are the Chiefs will pay $7 million essentially to themselves. They'll pay $7 million in rent that will go back to the team to pay for upkeep of the stadium. That's a deal. Can I do that with my own property taxes here? Like, can I pay my several $1,000 property tax bill back to myself to then basically fix up my house as I need. That, I mean, where's the deal for the rest of us like
deal.
that?
Yeah.
That is, woo, man. That's awesome. Sign me up for that.
I'll volunteer to take a squeegee out, like in Buffalo and Green Bay, and it snows and the fans come out and clear.
Yeah.
I'll clean the dome, a little squeegee and some Windex, for some tickets, something like that.
Oh,
Maybe we could all
gosh.
volunteer to help out and save money.
Very nice.
Such a nice man. Star bonds around my neighborhood for all the neighborhood lemonade stands.
Yeah, that's
toward
right.
my siding.
Hey, you're going to be in the Starbond neighborhood way out there in South Olathe.
It's true.
You're going to be in it. It's, one of the many jokes of the district. All right, let's get to the caller of the day.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Jason is on KCMO out of Olathe. Jason, good morning.
Hey, Pete, good morning. I think the Starbond district thing, they were kind of like, well, we can get this much, and if we can get more, great, But I think you're poo-pooing on this too much because, I live over by you, and we can charge people to park in our yards when they have the spring training, make some bucks there. So you got to remember that.
Please tell me that was tongue-in-cheek. I couldn't tell based on how you were saying it.
Yes, my tongue is in my cheek right
now. Okay. Thank God, because if not, I was going to have to ban you from ever calling again. Thank you for that, Jason. Listen, right. Good stuff, good call. I am not in the business of having people park on my front lawn. It's not something I want to do.
You could do it. You get more for an RV than a subcompact, Prius or a Tesla. You could charge them more, put up a charging station on the front lawn.
And then I'll put the girls outside and make them the watchers of these cars.
Beware of Woody.
Yeah, exactly. God bless him.
Yep.
Woody's my 13-year-old Havanese. I love him to death. I'm not sure he's going to be here to see the opening of the new stadium in 2031. God willing, that would take him to about 18 years old. That's old. He's starting to lose his hearing, too, I can tell. I'll be like, let's go. Time to go outside. And he just kind of looks at me. I'm like, dude, you used to be jumping on me to go outside. Now you just kind of stare. So now what I do is I take the leash and I jingle it in front of him. And he's like, oh,
then
we're
you
going
get the
out.
happy dance. Yeah.
Yes, then I get the happy dance. But I'm starting to get nervous because if I just say, let's go outside or let's go for a walk, he just kind of stares at me. And then I break out the red leash and he's like, whoa, all right, here we go.
That's what you're saying.
It's game time. Let's do it. So, I've got that relationship now with my dog. I don't want that relationship to happen with you anytime soon, John, okay? We don't want that to happen. Where I've got to do, sign language.
Dr. Pepper. Okay. Time to work. Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Well, as we wrap up the show, somebody had a really, they had a good debut, but they had a bad viral moment debut. And we'll share that audio with you coming up on KCMO. Plus, everyone is finally talking about what a disaster this has turned into for one specific group in the Kansas City area. We'll wrap up the show with that next.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Tony DeCopel had his debut last night as the new anchor of CBS Evening News, and a lot of people are excited about the potential for having a national nightly news broadcast on network TV that is not skewed all the way to the left. And that is part of what Tony DeCopel and the new leadership within Paramount and CBS has promised. Barry Weiss is taking over editorial control there, and they have basically said, we're going to do this differently. We're not going to worry about the elites. We're not going to worry about corporate interests. We're going to work for Main Street. So there's been a lot of hype around Tony DeCopel taking over this chair, and he had a moment last night that no matter who you are, you got to feel for the guy.
All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill, well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly. First day, big problems here. Are we going to Kelly here, or are we going to go to Jonah Kaplan? We're doing Mark Kelly, possibly demoted from his retired rank of captain in the Navy.
I feel for the guy.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Yep, you just got to fill it in sometimes. That's what you have to do. Do your best Will Ferrell Anchorman or do something. Just fill the gaps. I'm not sure I'd say, we've got big problems here, but I get it. He's probably nervous. He's got that pit in his stomach. His adrenaline's pumping. First ever nightly news broadcast, and you have a teleprompter error like that, John.
Radio is one of those things where, CD skipping. Hey, partly sunny today. Look, we're high in the middle 50s. Just start winging it there. But what about this weather, huh? Can I get a call?
Yeah, geez. People always say to me, they say, hey, why don't you, try out so-and-so for a show or have this person on and do this person and that person? And it's like, if they're on TV, they usually can't do radio because they're just oftentimes very programmed with a teleprompter. And even if they're not, even if they're a street reporter, I'm not knocking it. It's just a different skill set. Mm-hmm. You're doing 90 seconds. I mean, if you get 90 seconds on TV, that's a lifetime.
I can't do that thing where somebody's talking in my ear while I'm talking either. So that would drive me nuts, and they have to master that.
Yes, that's a very hard skill to master. But then that's totally different than saying, here's an open mic, 4-hour radio show. Go. What do you got for me? It reminds me of Scott Van Pelt, ESPN anchor, who's fantastic at what he does. He did TV. He was Golf Channel. Then he was a Sports Center guy. And then he started doing radio. And he ended up being very successful, the Scott Van Pelt show, during the ESPN radio heyday. I mean, it's amazing. ESPN radio's heyday, Mike and Mike, Colin Cowherd, Scott Van Pelt, Dan Le Batard. That was just murderer's row of nationally syndicated radio hosts. And now I can't name one guy in ESPN radio. Can you, Mark? I mean, if anyone can here, it's you. Can you name one guy on the ESPN radio lineup or gal?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mike and Mike are not there anymore?
No, they've been gone for years.
Okay.
The show that replaced them is gone, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know who's on ESPN radio.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, Scott Van Pelt tells the story the time he did his first ever radio show. 3 hours, doing it by himself. He's like, it'll be a breeze. I'm a big TV star. First segment wraps up, and he's curled up in the fetal position in the corner of the studio being like, I just blew through all my content. What do I talk about now? I'm out of stuff. It's like, you just got to go, man. One segment to the next. Let it rip. Don't worry about screwing up on the last one. Just move on to the current one. No one cares about what you might have messed up an hour ago. It's a totally different audience. It's not like TV. People are tuned in, they're tuned out, they're in, they're out, they're running errands, they're living life. You're just part of their daily routines. That's what it's about. So I'm pulling for Tony DeCopel. I think he'll do a solid job, but that went viral last night for the first ever new CBS Evening News broadcast. Now, one thing we're watching tonight on the sports front is KU. They're home tonight at Allen Fieldhouse, taking on the TCU Horned Frogs. KU off their loss to UCF over the weekend. And, of course, TCU actually beat Baylor in a bit of an upset on Saturday as well. So KU's 0-1 in Big 12 play. The question tonight, is future NBA star and likely number 1 overall draft pick Darren Peterson going to play? The injury report suggests he will be available. How much is he going to play? How's the fan reaction tonight at Allen Fieldhouse? After Darren Peterson plays 18 minutes in the first half against UCF, plays like 5 minutes in the second half, and is sitting on the end of the bench watching as his team is letting the game against UCF slip away. And Bill Self can't even get his story straight right now. I mean, Bill Self says after the game, like he was on a minutes limit, and then Bill Self is saying yesterday during a press conference, well, no, there was no minutes limit. It's like Bill Self's got to get his own story straight on this thing. He's struggling right now. I don't think he's happy at all about how this Darren Peterson issue is playing out. John Rothstein, CBS Sports, had this to say about the entire situation at KU.
But we are seeing now a scenario where Kansas cannot have any rhythm, chemistry, or role allocation with Darren Peterson continuing to pull himself out of games. Now, nobody is debating the fact that Darren Peterson is a world-class talent. This guy is a ridiculous offensive player. He's got great size. He's got great shooting ability. He's got great accuracy. He's got a great feel for the game. He is an awesome, awesome talent. That is why he is in play to be potentially the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. But when Bill Self said during one of the times that Peterson was out of the lineup, when Bill Self said that he was waiting on word from Darren Peterson's camp, whether or not Darren Peterson was going to return, I knew then and there that this was not going to be a thing that Kansas was going to be able to weather. Because when you are at the mercy of somebody else, running a program and putting a team together with a mission to win is secondary to what that camp feels is best. And it's impossible to win at the highest level.
That's John Rothstein, CBS Sports, on this mess of a Darren Peterson situation over at KU. I see on FanDuel here, Kansas is a 7.5-point favorite tonight over TCU. You got to lean on that one there, Parlay Van Sickle on the other side of the glass, or are you going to keep that powder dry?
I would say KU money line in a parlay, but I don't know about minus 7.5 at this point.
Now, Darren Peterson's over-under is 20.5 points.
Under.
You like the under? I was going to say I like the over there.
I guess if he's playing, he should get 20 points, but
well, he should, but I also just look at it and I say no matter what. I mean, the guy, even if he only plays 18 minutes, I think he's going to get to that number. He's that talented. He scored at least 20 points in 3 of his 5 games he's played. 5 games. What are they paying this guy on a per game basis, per minute basis? That's what I want to know. But I don't know. He dumped it in against UCF, 23 minutes, 26 points. I think he'll want to show off in front of the home crowd. I think there'll be some pressure to do that. And even if he only plays 20 minutes, I think he'll get to that 21-point mark. I like that bet, actually, Mark.
Over 20.5, KU money line. Put them together.
Parlay, FanDuel. There you go, baby. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Keatsman Uncanceled is next.